And hopefully we're back. And maybe this will fix it for 1 second. We'll be back right now. Hopefully. Seems like we're up. Yeah, here we go. Hopefully this will fix that. I apologize. Yeah. Let's see. All right. So I'm going to roll back through and talk to these guys. Hi, folks. Good morning. Hey, Julie. What's up, Amos and Carl? How are you guys? Watching a tortoise in the stairs of Air Force One and carpet made. Oh my God, the toilet paper shot. There's a certain point where even the fates are gonna not allow this guy to get away with this. Like even if he, with the sycophants around him working nonstop to boost his ego, he still is walking up a flight of stairs with toilet paper stuck to his shoe. Like, there wasn't a Dem operative. George Soros did not put toilet paper on the president's shoe. Like, the universe is just going, guess what, dude? This is going to be the most embarrassing and awful thing to ever happen to you, no matter what. I sent a tweet to all the Talking Head Bernie...
45 seconds.
Thank you. That have their own shows on how it helped Trump steal the White House and they didn't vote in the 2016. Yeah, because... Oh, you mean Jimmy and all those guys? Yeah. America's known as the leader of the free world, home of the free, land of the brave. The operative word was. Republican artist message. White guys are so oppressed in this country. We need white affirmative action. Oh, wait, we already have it.
1075 800 452 1075. That's 1 800 452 1075.
This is Doris Davenport, host of The Doris Davenport Show, all local, all the time. I'm on every Saturday morning from 10 to 11, right before Hal Sparks. Now let's get back to Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
That's right, Doris is. And you know, she was talking about on her show, I believe the Laquan McDonald ruling this week. Van Dyke was found.
There goes my happy ending.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yes.
No, it's too huge a news to say for like the last 90 seconds.
Yeah.
The first cop to be convicted in 50 years in the city of Chicago.
Right. An enormous step forward, and I think a wake-up call all around. It's always a difficult issue to unpack, except when it isn't, and I feel today for both Laquan McDonald's family and his community and the people around him, and nearly equally, but not quite, but nearly equally for all the, well, yes, equally, I would say, for all the police officers who had to work through this situation, who had nothing to do with that, would never do something like that, who go to work every day trying to do something great. One
of the hardest jobs in the world.
That's right.
The hardest.
Trying to save lives, trying to do everything they can, putting their lives on the line, and then this dude...
And every person they meet is having the worst day of their lives.
That's right. Or is intent on making someone else have the worst day of their life and don't care. And that's a really difficult position to be in, and I feel for them greatly. And especially in the light of these kind of circumstances where other cops endanger their lives, ruin the ability for the community to communicate with them, meaning that fewer crimes get prosecuted. We have a 52% solved murder rate in this country, one of the lowest in the Western world. And part of the reason, one of the big reasons is that in certain communities, the distrust between the police and the community is so high that police can't get the information from the people that they are literally helping to protect, and the people that they protect are so afraid of the police officers, killing the wrong person in their community by not even paying attention to what they're telling them as far as evidence, and just go. If they describe someone and a person who fits the description loosely gets killed, it's on them. So they would rather not say, and then have the person. And that's the real tragedy of this whole thing, is that the communities that are hurt most in these areas need the most help a lot of times, and the police officers who want to help the most can't get the cooperation they need from the community because of the actions of other police officers putting them in danger. And that is the untold tragedy of this entire thing. While the argument and the conversation is happening about all, you know, the crimes committed that go unchecked by police officers killing unarmed civilians, the other story is the number of people who have been victimized in crime, who will get no relief from the justice system in finding the person that wronged them or killed their family member or sexually assaulted their family member, because the distrust is so high that finding out who did it is nearly impossible. I mean, that is one of the leftover, you know, painful aspects of this that I don't think gets enough attention. But a huge step forward and a moment of historic, hopefully, awareness. And
a collective sigh of relief for everybody who was downtown. Everybody was prepared for the worst, unfortunately.
Right, and I wish that sigh of relief was about the will justice be served, and I think a large part of it, even in the community of people who were waiting for that verdict, was will there be violence afterwards?
Yes,
and when violence was the cause of it, was the start of it. The fear of more violence cascading is one of the most painful things, you know, that comes from all these situations. And there's been so many situations in the past where that's been the current thing. And by the way, I don't think enough credit is paid to nonviolent Black Lives Matter protesters all over the country who have shown up again and again and again, even in spite of people who may have gotten violent outside that movement or have co-opted some parts of that movement. The idea behind it being that you will stand as a line against police violence in those regards and overreach in those areas. In many ways, protecting the good cops as much as the community. I don't think they get enough credit for the nonviolent protests that they've gotten. So they've given. So there you go. That being said, the Kavanaugh, Justice Kavanaugh is a reality now, and the back and forth about will he be impeached or not, which I personally believe there is plenty of information and reason to believe he could be. Simply for, again, lying to during his
thank you over and over again,
lying
easy,
repeatedly,
provable lies,
and to such an extent, and his partisan flailing during his big breakdown last week,
screaming about the Clintons when not prompted.
Yes, written and then this op-ed they throw in at the last minute, which was meant to literally give more cover to the Flakes and the Collins of the world. The president's rhetoric at his, gibberish tirades that pass for rallies, but the element of the part that played the best with his base is the mom story he told. I don't know if you saw that. Mom, I got a great job. Mom, I got into a great college. I graduated with honors. Mom, I'm working at this great place. I made partner, Mom, and then, Mom, some person with no evidence has accused me of something that I didn't do. Mom, they fired me even without due process. Like that is on. And by the way, this is not simply a white Republican thing. That is a layer of fear that has come along with the Me Too movement that has vacillated back and forth between when the Weinsteins of the world have been taken down and people are like, it's overt and obvious the Cosbys of the world have been taken down, and the world of what they would consider the Aziz Ansari type of accusations. Right. And the muddiness around those areas has created a fear in a lot of people, especially mothers of sons, and that's what he was taking advantage of. Those polling numbers are there. That wasn't an accidental story. They took advantage of that. And a lot of what Susan Collins's pushback was about that idea. Never mind the fact that the chances of your daughter being sexually assaulted are off the charts compared to any man.
It's apparently everybody.
Yeah. any man being wrongly accused of those kind of things. And by the way, not having a chance to push back, because there have been cases where men have said, have been accused of these things, pushed back, had evidence or character witnesses that locked arms with them and said, no, this is not what happened. The woman, we believe accusers and women, insofar as they can make a case, provide evidence, or present a compelling story that is you can validate all those elements or whatever. And the pushback resulted in either juries or businesses. In the case of, I think Chris Hardwick's probably the best example of that, where there was genuine pushback. Like, that's not the man I know. That's, and I don't know Chris well enough to know the reality of either side of that.
That was really hard to witness, the back and forth of that.
Right.
And the detail and the believability of the account that was written, and then the detail and believability of
the pushback.
The pushback, people who are close to him.
Right. And that's, and that's arguably in an era where we are finally starting to listen to people who've been assaulted, is how it's going to play out.
Yeah.
It will. More and more, there will be two areas where this will play out. One where there is direct evidence. And I was really struck by, Dr. Ford's testimony was compelling, heartfelt, heartbreaking, I really feel, as she was telling the story. And that's a little, you and I, our timeline as far as high school is a little later than that, late 80s as opposed to the early 80s, 82, right. 83. And I kept really ruminating on the idea, and we got to take a break about this, how much has changed as far as where kids are and how we know where they have been going forward. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program.
No, we don't. No, we're good.
Oh,
there's Lady B. There's Lady B. Hey,
all right.
She's even got her glasses on.
Oh, she must have been reading. All right. We'll be back right after this, because I have a feeling that a lot of what happened to Dr. Ford is simply no longer an issue for the young people of today in one particular way because of how we live now. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Yeah, we're going to talk about that New York Times article in the next hour. Susan Collins looked like a plastic one with her stretched out face. Easy. I've had a head cold for 2 weeks, so it makes me feel like it's the point of doing anything to save this country after what happened. What happened yesterday was that all but one Democrat voted against them, and every Republican found a way to vote or hide under cover. And I mean all of them. Like in this fight about Collins and this fight about Manchin even, what gets lost in the conversation is the plurality of votes. And this idea that, well, there's no difference. If Manchin is now the Dems, which is unfair to every Democrat who voted against that, against the confirmation male and female. And Murkowski is somehow now is now the Republican. The quiet no, the saying present, they didn't all. It's an absurdity. What's the plurality? Vote the plurality of your ideas. Who did it first? And by the way, thank you for the super chats, you guys. Holy smokes. Wow. Billy and Hal Vickery, thank you guys so much. And I think, Hal and Billy, I think I do have your addresses. I want to make sure, because I'm gonna make an HSRPM shirt just for the donors, just for people like, our consistent people who've been throwing stuff in there. I want to, have a kind of a booster specialty T-shirt that I get made, and I'm working on the design now. It might take me a little while, but I want to have it done and out by the time I leave for China. So make sure that through the bookhal at iCloud.com email, which is it's not even on the screen right now. I don't know why. There we go. Or through the website, you send me your address and stuff, guys. And that's 666 shirt. Yes, we're that's a great idea. Can't Stop Lying. We need to like help Hal Sparks buy 666 Fifth Avenue. Like, I helped purchase the Devil's Tower. The thing is, Hal, Susan Collins never looks that put together. The makeup and hair outfit was all fake. Yeah, I agree, because she was going to be the face of the whole party, and they just guaranteed her re-election. Because they just told her, we're going to double whatever
30
funds.
seconds.
Whatever you get hit with, we're going to double it. Thank you. It'll be NRA and Russian money, but hey. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Carrie. That picture. Yeah. Thank you, Molly. Wow. Thanks. We got... Oh, sweet. Welcome to the show.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
So never mind that, Kavanaugh demonstrably lied under oath to during his confirmation. Never mind the fact that his pushbacks on things were bullyish and dismissive of the representatives of the people asking him pretty sedate questions, quite frankly. As much as he might have been, like, Durbin even tried for his you can't handle the truth moment with him. I want to know what you want to do. I want to know what you want to do. That was, I gotta say, even though the content was heavy and important, whether or not he would actually open himself up to an FBI investigation voluntarily, the wording of it and the pushing of it was not, listen, you pig, kind of stuff. Or the other side might be willing to broom a rapist into the court, but not me. Like, the Democrats never used language like that throughout. They maintained their comity, which you guys know I am for.
Right.
Because here's the thing, and this is, I don't want to get too Sun Tzu's The Art of War, but once we were at this point, we'd already lost.
Yeah.
You have already ceded the ground. You have already let the territory be taken by the hordes. You don't show up for that vote, that crucial vote, both during the presidency and during the midterms. Whatever happens after that is dead ground, as Sun Tzu would put it. It is already bloodied. The fact that you have to fight it, the fact that we have to protest someone like Kavanaugh getting on the court, means we didn't fight the battle that would have stopped that battle from being necessary. And that is the lesson. No matter what, everyone go, take whatever lesson you think you're going to take from this, but the lesson is you do not cede that ground by giving your vote away. And I got a little blowback on Twitter, but that seems to be all it's for these days. In my response to this whole thing about, that 77,000 vote margin in the Electoral College that gave the presidency to Donald Trump, even though a woman won the popular vote. I cannot state that enough. 3 million more people voted for a woman to be president of the United States. Human beings, American citizens, voted for Hillary Clinton. But the Electoral College, because of the margin in areas, because of people who were either butter emails crowd or voted for Obama and switched to Trump or didn't vote for the president thing at all because it's the lesser of two evils. And okay, if you're ever presented with two choices and one of those two choices is going to be in control of the who picks the next justices of the Supreme Court, the lesser of the two evils is the choice. The lesser, especially when that drop off is from, like, you know, the guy who would give a ride to someone who's about to be busted on To Catch a Predator versus somebody you think may have borrowed your garden hose and not returned it.
You know what? Can I just throw out there that I am unimpressed with all the people who dote over Kavanaugh and his volunteering to coach the high school girls basketball team. I think that's creepy.
Yeah, I'll go that far. Now, here's the thing: as a father of daughters, wanting to be engaged with your, being engaged with your children, I don't fault you for that. But in the context of how you acted and what your buddies wrote in your yearbook, which I'm still amazed by the way that someone printed. You know what I mean? I'm not surprised that a teenage boy like Brett Kavanaugh or Mark Judge said, I want this to be my quote. I am shocked that that the school would allow that to, the stuff that they wrote to be printed in there. Like that I marvel at. Especially less of the coded language, but the Renate alumni thing, which the school must have been aware of as a way of, slut shaming a girl in their school. Like, Can't Stop Lying in our chat room says my yearbook folks would have never let that pass. Ours neither would ours. I mean, maybe that's just prep school stuff. Maybe they just realized, or maybe they were like, maybe the best case scenario is that the people who run that school were like, we're going to need people to know how awful these kids are when they grow up because they're monsters. And we let them write whatever they want because, God willing, this comes back to haunt them because I don't think they're going to mature past this point. But
is it worth letting Nashville Carl chime in now, or should we put him off till after a break?
We can bring him in now. Yeah, we got a couple of minutes before we have to go to that break. I've been running my breaks pretty hard, so it might be a good idea to get him in because I'll get on a diatribe and we'll miss it entirely. So yeah, bring in Nashville Carl. That's great. Hey, Nashville Carl, welcome.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Doing good now.
Gee,
listen, I tell you, there are some good things that has happened with the situation, and there's some bad things, and I'm gonna go through all of them.
Okay.
Number one, we finally gotten over this damn misnomer is that Collins is some type of moderate.
Right.
This witch is as evil as the rest of Republicans. Her and Flake and Corker and all these guys are supposed to be these moderates. They vote with Trump over 90% of the time.
Of course they do. And the other, I would even go so far as to say that the Senate and the House over the years, and certainly all presidents have done what they call kill votes, which is a vote they really don't need you to go through that seems a little further down the road that they don't expect to pass, that it's even like one of these things where you ever watch the news and they're like, this is so unpopular. Why are they even floating this? And oh, thank God it went down. They allow it to die, right, to give them the illusion of balance. They give them, yeah, absolutely. So go ahead. Sorry.
We know we know we have the votes, so we're going to allow you to vote this way,
right?
To give this illusion. Yeah. So I mean, she went before them. I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I hope no one is surprised that Susan Collins has given a 45-minute speech defending this Brett Kavanaugh. I hope no one is surprised about this, but hopefully we can get rid of that. Number two, we have some blame. And I'm going to give some blame, and then I'm going to come back.
Okay.
I blame Harry Reid. Harry Reid should have known that they was going to do this. He should have, when they found out, literally, when they found that representatives from the House and representatives from the Senate had two different meetings on the day that Barack Obama was inaugurated, that they were going to be obstructionists and stand in his way on anything that was never going to give him any clean wins. He should have pulled the cord right then and there. We're doing 50 votes and everything when they had the Senate.
Right.
That's blame number one, Harry Reid. Blame number two, and I don't give a damn what anybody say. As a Democrat, we should never in our life allow an independent to disrupt what we had going before he's disrupted it.
I agree.
I cannot stand it. Let me tell you something. There's two people on the television I can't stand to look at. It's Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them are jackasses to me. Because here's the thing, Bernie Sanders and Bernie Sanders followers, your Bernie or busters.
Mm-hmm.
After North Carolina, Bernie Sanders should have bowed out gracefully. But what does ass do? He drags it on out as long as, even after Nevada. Oh, I can understand. Okay, maybe after North Carolina, hang around a little bit. I'm still of the mind of, look, South Carolina is over with. He drug it on. Okay, you drag it to Nevada. It was really over with then.
Mm-hmm.
But he stood in there, and we allowed an independent. We can blame Russia and we can blame Trump, but we allowed an independent, a guy that won't even change his name to a D next to him, to come in and disrupt our party.
And didn't stay, by the way. I would almost have given him credit in that area, to your point, had he stayed a Democrat after the fact and said, my goal is to push the Democrats left because of my belief system, and I think there's room for it in the Democratic Party, and I absolutely do. Yeah, and he didn't. He went back to being an independent, and this idea that... We didn't even have to allow him in our nominating system. Right.
He's not a Democrat.
Right.
He is an independent. We didn't even have to. People got on Debbie Wasserman shows. I get on her for allowing him even in the damn process.
Right. This idea that there was a conspiracy, the idea that there was a conspiracy to keep Bernie Sanders out of the Democratic Party when he himself would not even identify as a Democrat. And still does not, left immediately thereafter, even though it looks like, literally, talk about Machiavellian, you literally could have made an argument that this next time around, if he'd have stayed a Democrat, he could have run as a Democrat again easily, and actually had a genuine positioning in this. But the reality is he pulled out and went back to being an independent for the sake of his seat in Vermont, which he switched, by the way, to being an independent to fix the vote for himself as well, which was a choice. It was not he caucused with the Democrats almost every single time, but he made a political decision for all the he hasn't got a political bone in his body and he's just a straight shooter. All the mythology around Donald Trump that also sits on Bernie Sanders in some people's minds for that you do not get that far without making those kind of choices. He changed his gun vote to make to get into office. He was to the right of Hillary Clinton on guns, and for all the people who are pro Bernie but were that are looking at the Parkland thing and are emotionally affected by that, know that Hillary Clinton's position on it is far stronger than Bernie's ever would have been. Bernie supported Syrian airstrikes. He didn't support a no-fly zone for whatever reason. He didn't, but he did believe in the carpet bombing that we were doing. He was for drone strikes. All the stuff, the mythology around it, and then he gets to come in and pretend he's a Democrat for this time. Just take advantage of the Democratic structure that's existed, that's been put in place, managed, created by Democrats for a long time, and basically uses it as a super PAC.
He hurt more than anything because then Donald Trump used his words during the general election.
That's right.
And we have to pay attention to what's going on too, because the Republicans have been on a mission for the past 60 years to destroy our government as we know it. Mm-hmm. They discredited by the 80s and 90s. They discredited the House of Representatives. Then they went about to discredit the Senate. Mm-hmm. They achieved that over the Barack Obama years, and then they went after the courts, and they've done that. They have effectively discredited the presidency, the House of Representatives, the senators, and their crown jewels is the Supreme Court, because no one will look at the Supreme Court now as legitimate. As umpires call them balls and strikes. We'll look at them as just another political party, and they have successfully poisoned all powers of government all the way around at their benefit, and this is what they've done, and this is what we like. Now here's the good thing.
We're almost
all that what I said. Here's the good thing. We get to vote every 2 to 4 years in this country. Every 2 to 4 years,
Yep.
someone every Tuesday, put it like this right here. Every Tuesday in America, most likely, there's an election going on.
Somewhere. Right.
Every Tuesday,
And
somewhere
you do
there's
it.
an election going on. And at the end of the day, there's more of us than it is of them. And if us show up, then we can beat them every time. We could beat them every time, you know.
Right.
We made a lot of mistakes over the past 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Where we've had opportunities to really reshape the courts the way we wanted to, but Harry Reid wanted to just go along with these people, and they never wanted to work with us at all. They don't have any shame.
That's right.
They don't have any shame. They're I like to call them they're evil evangelical hypocrites. There's
That's right.
nothing Christ-like about these people.
We got to take a break.
Seriously,
we got to take a break.
One, man.
Way over it. I appreciate it. I understand your frustration. I appreciate your thoughts. We'll be back right after this. Okay, so I'm sure that fired up some of the the people in there. I don't think that Bill Clinton turned, quote, my Democratic Party into Republican light. I think if you look at all the both social and fiscal decisions of the Democratic Party over the last 30 years, they are much more in line with what your belief systems are than the Republicans ever would be. The only reason they appear Republican light is because the normal machinations of government slow down progress sometimes, effectively, simply to hash out the details of what those changes would be, not the existence of those changes in the first place. So no, I don't think the Democratic Party is Republican light. I don't. I believe that within the Democratic Party, you can have an entire conversation, conservative to liberal, as an inclusive part of the government. I don't think you need the Republicans anymore to have a conversation about conservative and liberal values and have a genuine democratic conversation between those two ideas, which I think is healthy. I think your ideas are sharpened by arguing them strongly with someone who has a genuine belief on the other side. I think that's meaningful. And I think it can happen within the Democratic Party without the necessity of anyone outside of it, ironically enough. But no, there is no comparison between, what is, the Democratic Party attempting to be a genuine governing party of an entire country and what the Republicans have become, or what their mission statement starting mid-Reagan is. And, how the leaning is based on voter who vote. Yeah. Okay.
30 seconds.
Thank you. The magic bullet, we would, yeah. Ted, you're absolutely right. Voting is the magic bullet. Like, I'm all for protests in the face of stuff that has been unfairly taken from you, but when you hand stuff away, yeah.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
Welcome back. So, the ongoing, and thank you, wow, Sandra, thank you so much, contributing to the Help Me Buy 666 Fifth Avenue Fund. You go to halsparks.tv, which is our YouTube channel, and contribute. Thank you, Michelle. The ongoing saga of what's, we look at this presidency and what has happened in it, and the whole goal is to create, the Republican idea, and this was kind of where Carl was getting to, the Republican idea of creating a government so small you could drown it in a bathtub, the famous Grover Norquist quote, which even over time some liberals and Democrats have fallen for. And the reality is the real movement on the Republican side was to push this idea, a government so small you could drown it in a bathtub, never realizing that the person that they would allow to drown it at some point would be Vladimir Putin. The idea that somehow, and this is something that I think all voters in the United States should hearken to and recognize, that there is, I believe, within 100 years, a genuinely more, while economically capitalist still, more socially driven governmental structure that will be engaged in most of the countries, certainly all the functional ones on Earth. That there will be a you own the fruits of your labor economic system, and you can charge as much as you want for those things as long, as long as it is an optional thing, not water, not oil. All those kind of things will shift in how we deal with those economically. But if you create something from scratch of your own, you will get to control it. It will be a more capitalistic structure for the average human being, shifting away from a 1% capitalism style to a 99% capitalism style would be the thing. I believe that's the way the economy will right itself over time. And the social structure of the United States will lean towards a more generalized buoying support system of both a Social Security system. What was that noise? Was that you?
Yeah, it was me. Every time I hear buoying, I always want to go boy.
Oh, okay. Well, there will be a buoying.
Yeah, I am mature.
I know. So, and then, but on an economic level, more of what would be considered a social.
What was that noise? I'm sorry.
That's right. A more what we would consider a social structure, a socialist structure, meaning that a Social Security and retirement setup for workers who have moved out of the industrial years of their lives. It will have opt-out categories for people who are, more who are healthy and wealthy enough to not need that temporarily, and can say, for a tax break, I will push my Social Security years further. For those like people like my dad and others who have retired officially, but then consult sometimes. After the fact, there's an entire generation of that new thing where corporations have started doing that. Like we know your retirement age and you've got your benefits, so you can go ahead and retire. But if you want a part-time consultation job that pays nearly as much as you were making, a lot of people continue to do that, especially in the non-industrial sectors. They will continue to do that. I think those people should have the option to say, you know what, I'm going to continue to work. So this year, I want my Social Security that I would have been paid out this year to go to someone else. That kind of social structure. Those kind of things, I believe, will start coming into fore over the next 50 years or so. And over the next 100 years, the idea of, material things that you get will be so, like, normalized industrial, meaning it won't be built in a factory and trucked to you. It'll be 3D printed nearby. Those kind of things will be coming into fore. And so a lot of the arguments that we have will be, looked back on as quaint and violent from this time. They were fighting about a lot of things instead of solving their problems. Yeah. That being said, the idea that America, as important as it is in philosophy, meaning our constitutional ideals of equality under the law, and the right of every person and individual to be free and to choose our own leaders, which is an extraordinary thing that, since most of Europe has started doing it, since we started doing it, we take that for granted a lot now and assume that it won't go away ever, because we take it serious. It's normal to us. As a matter of fact, we piss it away nearly every other election cycle. Mm-hmm. We ignore that right. We have taken it for granted, that idea that we can somehow assume that a democracy, that the ability to choose your leaders, is something that you can take for granted in any place, especially in a time when stories come out of Florida and Georgia and Ohio and Mississippi and Louisiana and parts of Texas and Kansas that majority minority districts get 2 voting machines where the other districts get 20. and someone says, I can't be bothered to stand in line for 20 minutes to vote. Meanwhile, other people are standing in line for 6 hours and never actually and end up getting a provisional ballot because their vote's been undermined. And if you are willing to give up your right to vote so wantonly when other people still are striving so hard to have that right to vote, you are dismissive of that struggle. You are acting as an associate supporter of racism and sexism in this country, and you ought to be ashamed of yourself. We got to take a break. We'll be back after this. I want to talk a little bit about that New York Times story that got kind of swept under the carpet by all the other news, which was, by the way, part of the reason, I think, as much as, thinking that it would help him to, get on the court, that Trump and his buddies decided that Kavanaugh needed to freak out on TV and make big news of it, because all that helped them avoid the fact that they are criminally liable and civilly liable for tax fraud and, in the state of New York and to the country. And that's not going away anytime soon. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. It really helps us out. And we'll be back right after this. Hi, Michelle. We're waiting.
Hi, this is Bill Press. When you get to work, don't leave us
send
in
me
the
a
car.
Bill Press.
Stream us live at WCPT
Lady
820.com.
B, can you kill the feed coming my way?
Day.
Yeah, I don't ever need to hear Bill Press's voice. The guy who wrote, Broken Promises a year away from the end of the Obama presidency. That dude. Again, be pissed all you want about what the Republicans did to stop him from the very beginning. It's giving into it and allowing ground that is what enables those people. How do we get Anonymous to hack and release his taxes? We don't want that to happen. We don't believe that will happen. I do not encourage any sources to hack anyone and release their information. Not ever. With I guess rare exception of what would be whistleblowers who know of violent crimes covered up by the government that should get out, or manipulations of the law that are not being followed. That I believe in, but outside people hacking stuff like the WikiLeaks dump on the CIA programs that they put out and all patting themselves in the back for going, the CIA has plans to, they can, use your TV to spy on you, or, that kind of stuff. I got news for you. As big as our military is, and as big as the threats that we faced over the years, ever since especially during the Cold War, and literally the nuclear threat going back and forth, the U.S. and the Soviet Union have spent so much money and done so much planning and have done so much spying on each other and the allies therein, be it Cuba or in our case Israel, that all those actors involved have created a point where the government, the DOD and the CIA, at some point have had some person at a desk run a plan about everything. And so if you discover the CIA had a plan to da-da-da-da-da, that's true of nearly every possible version of events. I mean, if all you need to do is look at the WOMP in War Games and how it ran every possible nuclear scenario. The reason why that was a plausible storyline at the time was because it was so time consuming to do all that work. They were looking for a computer that would run all those possible scenarios for them. It was simply short timing it, but it wasn't that they weren't going to run those scenarios from the first place. The government's job is to run every scenario, even the stupid ones. So, his protection with Fred Trump and blacklisting black renters from their buildings, that's another. Absolutely. I mean, that's how he got his start. Michael Moore is a one-man voter suppression vessel. I don't know that that's the case. I don't think he suppresses votes. I think he encourages right-wingers sometimes. I watched the first season of Handmaid's Tale. I can't do it this year. Anxiety. I understand that. They simulate everything they can possibly imagine. That's what think tanks are for. That's right. And think tanks are just the private version. They started outsourcing some of the less secret stuff. Basically get a bunch of people and pay them to play Risk, and write down what they found. So that and create a report about it and file it away in case that actually starts to happen. They've got options. And you're never going to stop that. Not in a country this big, not in any country that big. Israel does the same thing. Saudi Arabia has run versions of this stuff 1 million times. It was the Whopper. That's right. Womp was in Spies Like Us, I think. I always get those mixed up because one's the joke version. Brown kids in concentration camps. Who's Michael Moore? Bill Press is very wrong. The only minors who were incarcerated by the Obama administration were unaccompanied minors. Almost all teens. Yeah, they didn't take away kids from it. That's right. Very cool. Mike Moore did the movie Fahrenheit 9/11. Yeah, I think he's kidding. Fred Tramp brought 3.5 million chips from his son's casino and paid a $50,000 fine. Yeah, I mean they found all kinds of ways to fake, create this phony support. Yeah. And then, oh my God, we're going to start with what Grassley said. The War Operation Plan Response, right? The Whopper. Yeah, and they ended up playing tic-tac-toe and chess. Shall we play a game? That's what they do. That's what chess in and of itself is one of the most violent games ever. It was a way of teaching people to grow up to be generals.
1 minute.
Thank you.
And you have 4 callers.
Okay, great. Thank you. Chairman Grassley, this is completely unfair to what people are saying here today. These people. Now, I've been very patient through all of this, but this is just wrong. Oh, my God. My brother keeps playing chess like his friend. Chess is great for the brain. It is incredibly important, but it was started as a game to teach the war arts to young people, and whoever was good at it, they knew they could put them as strategists as they got older.
You're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I've had people walk out of me before, but not when I was being so charming.
Video streaming at halsparks.com.
Well, I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Damn puss-faced little pimpstick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Welcome back. So, one of the joys of watching this ridiculous Kavanaugh debacle was watching Chairman Grassley try to, colloquially elbow his way through these hearings and pretend like there was comedy and balance when there was absolutely not. While his comrades hid behind their female human shield during the questioning of Dr. Ford, and then just blew it off and just went straight into Fox News mode.
Yeah, you know what? I think that just screaming into our lap is going to be a better take on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Like what they obviously felt like. By the way, they obviously felt like the pushback. Cornyn supposedly was starting to tear up during Kavanaugh's testimony. And by the way, these folks know this guy from his time in the Bush White House. George W. Bush and George H.W. Bush were both lobbying behind the scenes to get Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court. Kavanaugh, the reason they like him is because had he been on the Supreme Court when, and all the torture stuff had ever gotten in case all the way up to the Supreme Court, he'd have ruled on their side instantaneously. That's why they want it, and they're going to want it in the future. I got news for you, because one of the few areas we have is when the legislative has dropped the ball, the Supreme Court is the area where we're going to go, no, you can't torture people. This is a violation of the treaties that we have made and of our morals and laws as a country. And Judge Kavanaugh and his Republican cohorts on the Supreme Court are going to be the people who go, yeah, not so much, and are going to protect the Dick Cheneys of the world, and they know this. And so Chuck Grassley coming out. And, has come out and said that, this is ridiculous, that the people of, George Soros is dumping money into this whole thing, And
now do the voice of the farmer who was taken over, whose body was taken over, and he needs sugar water.
Sugar and water. I had a cat with wonderful animals. Every
now
day
do
of his life.
Grassley.
Yeah, this is exactly. I am not a lizard person, Johnny Million. Johnny Million is making the idea that I am not. A giant insect has not come down from space and started wearing my skin. That I take great offense to that idea. But I will say that George Soros, this Hungarian Jew, is crowbarring his cash into this process. I'm not being an anti-Semite. It's the Hungarian part I have a problem with, obviously.
Hal is not exaggerating right now, people.
That's pretty balls on what Grassley said. And Grassley's, I mean, there's a lot that he has said. I got to find this quote from him, but holy smokes. Grassley was asked why there are not more women on the judiciary. Did you see that business?
No.
For anybody who thought that we just want a fair process, a man cannot be unfairly told that he is allowed to not be on the Supreme Court from unverified and unverifiable situations, because of some woman deciding that she's doing this thing. That's not fair to him or her. Okay, that's this idea that he has some sort of balanced idea. He was asked, why is the side of the Republican side of the Judiciary Committee? How come they're all guys and they're all white? Why is that? And did you see his response by any chance?
No.
This is, and by the way, just in case anybody thought, this guy's coming to the defense of a colleague and somebody that they work together on, and this is not about sexism on the part of the Republicans. Anybody who's harboring this is just about protecting an innocent man from unfair charges made against him. That is not what, they are just worried about the slippery slope of Me Too going too far, and that's not what it's about, right? That's not that's okay. It's really just about them, due process. You cannot have in this country people wanting the innocent until proven guilty. That's what we do here. You can't have a man's life destroyed, right? That's the storyline they've been pushing.
Yeah.
So he gets asked, why are there no women on the Republican side of the Judiciary Committee? And his response was, it's a lot of work. Maybe they don't want to do it. My chief of staff of 33 years tells me we've tried to recruit women and we couldn't get the job done. We have a hard time getting men on the committee. It's just a lot of work. Whether you're a man or a woman, it doesn't matter. He started to dig himself out of the hole at the end of that.
Wow.
Like, I realized I said the quiet part loud again. I did that. That's my fault. He's now I think Chuck Grassley might be my new favorite. We desperately need Chuck Grassley to do, after getting Kavanaugh through, we need him and Trump to do a presser together. Mr. President, you go ahead and tell these people that you wanted the best person for the job. I don't know what he's talking about, but it's good. That's right. We've tried to get women to do it, but they just won't do it.
I have a real hard time with that.
Well, he literally said that. And meanwhile, knowing full well when he said it, that there are 4 women on the Democratic side. So the implication being, I suppose, that while there are females on the Democratic side, they don't do the work. Is that what we're doing? So, by the way, anybody who's been questioned by Kamala Harris will clearly.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program.
Hey,
what happened?
Hey, we're back.
Oh, I was back and I didn't even leave. That's lovely. Somebody put an elbow on a button. That happens.
It was my nose.
Just the implication being is not only that the Republicans either have a total lack of respect for the women that are in their caucus that do have, share their values. They just don't believe they should have an important job. This is for men to do. This is the wood chopping of judicial choices. We can, they can vote on things because that's the law, and I can't do anything to stop that now. But I can keep them off the judiciary where they might make an emotional choice. It's bad enough we have Lindsay. Anyways. So, but the idea that he somehow, the subtle ignorance and the not so subtle ignorance of him, like the overt just misogyny and sexism of Chuck Grassley that he let slip and then had to walk back, coupled with the fact that he does not recognize the women on the Democratic side. Do you understand that that's what he's saying in this process? And when asked why they're not, we've tried to recruit women, they just don't want to do the work, meaning that he doesn't actually count the women on the Democratic side of the aisle in the Judiciary Committee. By the way, if there was one more of, this vote would have not happened. Understand, we have an 11 to 10 majority to minority tilt on the Judiciary Committee. Think about that for a second when we go back again to what, whether you voted or how you held your vote or my district's safe. There is no such thing as a safe district anymore. With all the shenanigans of voting tallies and Russians hacking into voting systems and voter rolls and purges and again, I'm not going to get on my mandate rant again, but because we got to take a break. But when we come back, we're gonna take some callers. We got some callers on the line. Obviously, a lot to talk about. I'll take some calls if you want to, but I've already said my piece. He's totally right. The only person more right than him is me. No good. People, there's, so much hard work done by so many people. I don't know what he's talking about. He doesn't even do the work. We'll do the work and be back. All right. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Meta World Nations. National, super nationalist is what it's called now. We'll be back. Doesn't Kamala and Steve Mnuchin have BFF matching necklaces? No. I want to call in Ev. Help talk to me in that voice. So the argument is love the pizza, hate the toppings. Huh? I love that Republicans are afraid of extreme Islam supposed and act equally ranked towards women and outsiders, yet replicate many of the tactics and views. They hate themselves and don't. Yeah, obviously, they're, the only difference between, we're not going to chuck them off rooftops, but we don't want them to smile in public. You know what I mean? They should live in the dark and hide in ignominy and never have a chance at happiness. We're not going to kill them like ISIS, but we're like, we don't want them walking around happy. That's really the Republican stance on gay rights. Like, all right, you guys aren't going to let us treat them like garbage anymore. So, but I don't want to, they should only come out at night like vampires and raccoons. That's all. That's right. America is the greatest country in the land. I need to look at the 3 pages of judges and make some decisions. Otherwise, I would have voted this week. Understood. Let's see. Vampires, raccoons, and the man of the moon made of cheese. He always sounds like he's got like an alcohol-induced case of the sniffles. And if so many judges to decide on, it's insane. No, it's a lot, but it's not insane. Here's a great way to start, Carrie. Go through the news and Google each of their names and see which news stories come up as far as their rulings. You know, what kind of cases they presided over will come up first. In the first three, if you don't know that much about them and you're kind of like needing a shorthand about who can stay and who should really go, the really problem ones will show up right away.
I'm Dick Kay from Back on the Beat, and here is the Mega Worldwide Radio Program with Hal Sparks.
Today's show is brought to you by Chairman Grassley Moonshine. The only side effects is it stuffs your nose up permanently, so you always sound like you have a head cold that is caused by whiskey and a bee in your nose, and your feelings about women and gay people will parallel exactly the Islamists you pretend to hate. The only difference is we don't want to chuck them off rooftops. We just want them to never smile in public. Women and gay people should walk around just afraid and sad and never come out except in the dark time at night. You know, like vampires or raccoons or coyotes. That's what's that? That I like saying coyote. That's a good dog whistle about Mexicans. Oh, I said the loud part, the quiet part loud again. I always get the loud and the quiet mixed up. I'm Chuck Grassley. Why won't women learn how to work?
Brad in our chat room, Hal, it's too real now. Stop.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, like, he's one of those people, you know, he's becoming like Sarah Palin, where you just say what he actually said and it sounds like an Onion article.
Yeah.
I don't know why women don't want to work. They just don't.
What? Oh, my God. Meanwhile, I would argue that Kamala Harris was the hardest working person on that entire panel.
Oh, my God, yes.
Hands down.
She scares the heck out of me.
Oh, yeah, and she should. You of all people.
You know that feeling like when when another student was getting yelled at in class for talking, and it wasn't you, but you still felt bad?
Yes. Yeah.
That's well, I wasn't even talking, and I feel really bad about it.
I think you watch her and just see her going, I'm going to ask you a question right now, and
think carefully about
have you ever broken wind in an elevator and pointed at someone else? Now think very carefully. And then she looks down at a piece of paper.
I have a feeling that you know who I pointed at.
Well, yeah, I had to live with that for a week and a half. No, I swear to God. Anyways, let's take some callers because we got some people who want to talk about this, no doubt.
What about line 2?
Let's go to line 2. Who do we have?
Bill.
Hey, Bill.
From Naperville.
Right on. Hey, Bill, welcome.
Hey, hi, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
Oh, great. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to touch on the guy who called in about Bernie Sanders, and I know we got to focus on 2018, but it really scares me when I hear people talking about Bernie Sanders should run for president in 2020. Oh, yeah. I mean, he'll be like 75 or older, and there are plenty of things you should or could do at 75. You should not be running for president. That's what I would say.
Thank you.
You know, but beyond that, about that mom analogy thing that Trump did,
yeah,
you know, in the right wing in general, they're the masters of the bad analogy and the non sequitur. So if they really wanted to make a good analogy there, they should say, Mom, I have this great job at $200,000 a year for life, and I interviewed for a new job, and I lied repeatedly, and now I can't get this new job, so please have mercy on me, you know?
I would even go one further and go, Mom, I got into a great school. Mom, I got this great job. Mom, I went to work, and because I'm a woman, my boss said if I want any kind of promotion like the other people in the office, I'm going to have to sleep with him or he's going to fire me, because that's more by volume, experientially off the charts. That's what happens. You know what I mean? Like the protection racket, wanting people to be judged by what they actually do versus what they've accused of is a reasonable thing. Our entire court system system is based on that. But it is so off measure with the reality of experiences. The daughter who is, limited in her options is a much bigger problem than the son who is. And if the son is, you have an answer for it. You can help him defend himself. You can show up at court in his confirmation hearing and sit behind him, make a dour face. And guess what? Even in spite of the fact that there was an FBI investigation, it will be stopped by Don McGahn on behalf of the president. He will get through. But your daughter, on the other hand, will have to move.
Yeah, and speaking of daughter, did Kavanaugh have his wife and kids in the room when he was doing that hearing?
During the first confirmation, his daughters were there. His wife was there during the second one, along with like every other woman. But his parents were there for both. He did not bring his daughters to the next one. Obviously, and I don't think it's because he decided not to. I think somebody told him the optics were bad, or his wife or some other, more mature person in his orbit said, no, considering what is going to be discussed, we're not bringing him in the room.
Yeah, he went on that crybaby rant about he would like to protect his wife and children, and he would do anything to protect them. Well, I would say don't bring him into that room.
Right.
And you know what? Maybe you ought to just drop out of this if you're so adamant about protecting your family.
Right. Well, that's the idea. Like, what are you going to rule on in the future where people might judge you and your family and all that? I mean, look at Clarence Thomas. His wife is a Tea Partier. I mean, she ran, events, for the Tea Party against the Affordable Care Act, which is, part of rulings that would be in front of him. There's no way you could argue that he has this kind of, baseline separation from that as a justice. And at this point, there are so many areas where Kavanaugh is either going to have to recuse himself or he will not be able to write a dissenting or affirmative decision anytime in the next 20 years. Because if he does...
Yeah, I couldn't watch all that. I couldn't stomach it. But
yeah.
Did anybody ever ask him if he would now agree to recuse himself on a number of things that could come up in the future?
He will not.
They asked him, and he said he will not answer a question about a hypothetical, which is essentially what every question is when you're being reviewed to be a judge. What if this happens?
Right.
I'm not going to answer a hypothetical. But wait, they know the questions.
If you want to have a voice-off, have Fat Albert against Grassley.
Right. Well, there's quite a similarity between the two of those. Let's. I mean, that's an untold story. In the healing of this nation, as we go forward in our relationships between men and women, we have a lot of stuff to unpack. And it's sometimes the Band-Aid gets pulled off in a very painful way. And it's one of those things. You don't have a decision whether to learn your lessons. You just have a choice whether to learn them through joy or through pain. And we didn't learn them when we had the chance. So now it's going to be a painful lesson. So anyways, I appreciate the call. Let me get one more in before the end of the break. We got like 3 minutes before we have to take a break. So
let's Paul from Seattle.
Oh, right on. Hey, Paul, welcome to the show.
The other line three.
Right.
There we go.
Is he with us? Do we have Paul?
I think so.
There he is. Yeah, go ahead.
Grassley sounded like he wanted to run it like a Q&A, kind of like, who has a question for Brett? Now, yes, sir, what is your question for Brett? Yeah. How'd the Georgetown Prep team do in '82?
Right.
We went 10-0. We all got NFL contracts. Did you? Did you get NFL contracts?
You didn't get. I busted my butt to get into Yale, and by busting my butt, I mean my dad was rude to me a couple of times before I was a legacy into Yale. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of like who was it that said that? It was Dinesh D'Souza that said the Parkland kids the worst thing that happened since their parents told them to get a summer job.
Right.
Yeah. But,
Jesus.
I want to tag on the Nashville crowd, not to digress too much, but that, if both parties have a rule that you have to have become declared a member of that party at least as long ago as the last time that office was filled, in the case of the presidency, at least 4 years ago, there would have been no Bernie Sanders and no Donald Trump. We basically had two independent party crashers, and that was the war between them.
Right.
So
And
that was just a war between two independent party crashers. But I want to talk about the.
It's also our hatred of the establishment.
Moms standing up for their sons, and then the other one narrative that's being bandied about is this, and it was an article in the National Review that said that they see the Republicans have two cases. They have two cases of false rape claims, and the one is the Duke lacrosse team.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one is a fictitious novel called To Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, God.
Yeah. They were in the National Review had an article that said that in today's terms, by the Democrats' point of view, Atticus Finch would be a rape denier, right? So what do? They're playing racism against the Me Too movement, racism against sexism. And essentially, that's what the Democrats fell into with Clarence Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
Because in 1991, the Democrats controlled the Senate, in fact, both the Senate and the House.
Right.
And Joe Biden was the chair of the House Judiciary Committee.
Right.
And we basically hung Anita Hill out to dry.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it was played basically, okay, a black justice has left the court when Thurgood Marshall died. Mm-hmm. Now you have to replace him with a black, right?
Right.
And then we have these allegations of sexual harassment. And what did the Democrats do? They said, well, let's see, we're stuck between racism and sexism.
Right.
Well, I guess we have to replace a black. So, yeah, we have to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they really did. So now we left another sister out to hang out to dry because look what's happening to – because, you see, the connotation is that now that Kavanaugh is confirmed to the court, that's proof of his innocence, proof that the allegations were false.
Right.
And the allegations will magically go away, and Christine Blasey Ford can just fade away.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen
if
we don't do what you've been advocating, which is you got to get out and damn well vote. This should never happen. Women are a majority.
Yes.
Clear majority in every state.
That's right.
In every state.
Yep. And the volume of them that sat out last round, and again, like every time somebody comes up with a new group that's going to save us, you know, as a country, well, the women are going to come out and there's going to be a huge woman vote this year, or the youth vote because of Parkland is going to be enormous or whatever. From your lips to God's ears, I hope that is the case, but you can never rely on that being a reality. That should never give you comfort. You should never find comfort in anyone but you voting. You know what I mean? There should never be a moment where you're like, other people will vote and handle it. Ever. Ever. You need to carpool your friends to vote. Always. Every situation. Paul Weyrich proves it more than anybody else. You know, a lot of my conservative friends have the goo-goo syndrome, the good government. Well, I don't believe in good government. As a matter of fact, our leverage in the government, goes, as the voter numbers go up, our leverage in the election goes down. Like, that's how they've been playing it forever. They want a minor amount of voting. They already have an outsized control in the Senate simply because they have guaranteed red states that have less population in the entire state than some blue states have cities. And yet those cities have 2 senators. I mean, those states have 2 senators. There are, and one of the big pushbacks has been coming around, and I'm curious to see where it goes or whatever, certainly is D.C. statehood and Puerto Rican statehood, which I am for. Because I think Puerto Rico would have been in a much better position in dealing with the aftermath of the hurricane had they had statehood status. We're way past the break. We got to take a break. I appreciate the call. Let's take a break, and we'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Every all religions. Change, surely agree on one of the worst out of all of them. Well, Axid, not all religions suck. And there is not a problem with Islam in general. There's more than 1 billion Muslims in the world. There is a percentage of them that are violent, that is on par with what you would consider Christian violence in the world. We just don't count it as Western Christian violence in a lot of ways. If you look at places like, like Chad in Africa, or what, you know, when the fighting between Christian extremists and Muslim extremists are fighting each other. I think the idea that the Abrahamic traditions have a lot of warring between them is not that surprising, but I do not believe that. I think the Abrahamic religions, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, are as violent as the supporters are willing to carry them. They are also as peaceful as their supporters are willing, because you can salad bar your way through any of them. So there you go. So no, I don't think Islam in general is the problem. Yeah, because I'm not afraid of the troll, technically. So, how most people from Puerto Rico now reside someplace else. Florida, I'm guessing the electorate may be surprising. Well, they'll change the vote in Florida. And most people from Puerto Rico do not now reside someplace else. A large portion, a large group of Puerto Ricans have moved to Florida to live with relatives because their houses were
25 seconds.
But the population in Puerto Rico wasn't cut in half, much less completely, moved elsewhere. There was a lot of Christians in the good of USA and right-wing militias which advocate violence. Yeah, clearly. Obviously, our troll didn't see my shirt today. Welcome back.
I know that voice.
Yeah, here we are. Welcome back to the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. There's so much about what has been going on over, with the Kavanaugh confirmation, and what the fear of that will be. Now, let's see. Yeah, this afternoon is the vote. I don't know if they're starting to get underway with the process of voting. They have, I guess, reached a vote on ending debate, or they've reached all the Republicans either ceded most of their time to the chairman, so that or to the majority leader, basically did his side of the debate, and everybody else, with the exception of Susan Collins doing her CYA speech on the floor. The only debate time that meant 15 hours of debate left over for the Democrats, and which I'm not sure how much of it they used. Not that it was going to change anything, other than they would stand up and give a short protest to that. Jeremy Nadler has said that he will, if Democrats win control of the House, there will be an investigation into Kavanaugh lying during his confirmation. If they find out indeed that he can be impeached and disbarred. That would be a major shock to the Supreme Court, but perhaps one that's overdue. It will certainly make for an exciting news cycle, but but one of the biggest, while this goes on, while this, dog and pony show that was gonna go down the way it was gonna go down, this decision about Kavanaugh or someone of his ilk, and understand that, while they had plenty of people to pick from on that Federalists list, the idea that any of them would be on a moral level any better than Kavanaugh, but for their history of it. The only difference between these guys and how they feel about women's rights or a woman's place in politics or in business in the world, the only difference between the other people on the list from the Federalist Society and Kavanaugh is that Kavanaugh had some stuff from high school and college, and perhaps a drunk episode during his time in the Ken Starr investigation that brings it into quick relief, where you can see it. But it doesn't mean that he's any further down the road than these other guys. They might have even had an easier time getting them through. That was the irony, is that I was concerned more than anything that they were going to take somebody who was more conservative on a lot of these scary issues. And I'm specifically talking about dark money, the ability of the president to, rendition without legal protection, anti-whistleblower stuff, like all those things that came up during the Bush years. That, by the way, Kavanaugh was around for and supported. My concern that they would find somebody who was even further to the right on those issues even than Kavanaugh, and slingshot them through the process just to get them through. Just to make sure that they have a, like while we're finally they took the obvious sexist pig off the market when they just got this stable Gorsuch-looking fellow who will be his replacement. We got rid of Kavanaugh. Yay us. Pat yourself on the back. Slow, short, normal confirmation hearing. Nothing bad written in his past. No hidden stuff. By the way, that's who the third person is going to be if they replace somebody else on the court. That they will replace him with somebody, and it'll more than likely, the chances of that it'll be RBG are very low. So it might be a chance that they're just going to replace another one of their own conservative people who will step down so they can have somebody younger. Basically, tag teaming is now the plan on the right, by the way. Just be aware of that the next thing will be pick an older judge, who might be out in 10 years and replace them with someone who will be in for 30. That's the next strategy. Know that, understand that, and that if the Senate does not change, if the Senate does not move to Democratic hands, we will see the same thing happen with a replacement, perhaps for Thomas. But it will be hard to say. But whoever they decide they want somebody in there longer, that's who the shift will be next. Because I don't think they're expecting to get any of the Democratic nominees that are on there off. So the new Republican strategy is strictly that. Now it's tag teaming. Get people younger than the person we already have and more conservative on there. And during this whole dog and pony show where people pretended that there was a chance for a second that that they would get somebody on honored. Flake would come back and we have a real investigation and any of that story. Meanwhile, the Trump's family has one of the largest New York Times stories in the history of the paper, I think.
Yeah, it's like the second biggest.
And I wonder, Lord knows what the main one being, but that, oh God, the picture, have you seen the picture? Like the main picture, like they put up,
I don't know.
This, if you go to the site itself, the picture of Fred Trump to his dad, like I'm putting it up on the YouTube site, like this picture of him in his car that he clearly posed for, like that whole, like, one thing I learned from my dad, pretend you're on the phone for a picture. That's like that. That seems to be a consistent refrain in the Trump family or whatever. But the story being, that Trump and his family, messed around with these tax schemes to avoid, quote, and they even call it the death tax when people are talking about it, like the inheritance tax. That at one point, Trump had this big story, and this was part of why he won, part of why the independents and some Obama Democrats, alleged Obama Democrats, who I think were really Obama Republicans, who were looking at this as a chance to give themselves plausible deniability against their own racism. I'm not a racist. I voted for Obama twice. It's not my fault.
I saw Get Out.
Yeah, right. I bought a ticket to Get Out in the theater, and I voted for Obama twice. It's not my fault. Mexicans are awful. You know what I mean? Like that kind of rhetoric. But Trump's big story to them.
There's a full quote for our new promo for the House Park.
That's
show.
right. That'll be perfect. Just that sentence by itself. Yeah. You got to love out of context. But he told everybody that, I got $1 million from my dad to start off, and that was it. And I paid it back.
Small $1 million loan.
Small $1 million loan. Right. Not even close to true, as anybody thought. But I think most people thought, well, he was in the 1 to 20 million, and then clearly got bailed out illegally when his dad bought a bunch of poker chips at his casino and never cashed them in. And
so crazy.
Yeah, millions of dollars in poker chips and then never cashed them in and then paid a $50,000 fine, I think it was. And so the number, I think, what most people said was, yeah, he said $1 million. It was probably 20. But the guy, he's worth billions. So clearly here's a guy who knows how to take $20 million and turn it into billions. And therefore, what a great guy to shepherd the economy, right? After what we've been through. And, and the Republican storyline that, under Obama, more people were on food stamps than blah, blah, blah. Or more people got, new welfare filings or whatever. Never mind the fact that they all happened in the first year of the Obama presidency after the crash and before any of the policies had been implemented while people were literally losing their jobs at a massive rate. And again, the stock market when Obama entered, 6,400. When he left, 19K. When, we were approaching, going towards 11% unemployment was the big fear. We got towards 9 literally in the first year. And he got it down to under 5 before he left. Like that and of it, like the growth that Trump would have to create, and by the way, while fighting for every stimulus dollar he could possibly get. Meanwhile, Trump is creating artificial stimulus packages all over the place. Massive military funding, which has, military dollars spent in a bunch of red districts, which always get out to the community and create artificial stimulus in those areas. And then, of course, literally the deficit next year will be double what the deficit was when Obama left office. We are borrowing and spending to shore up the economy right now. We are creating an artificially high economy through that methodology. So the king of debt, who borrowed $1 million. Now understand the idea that he had borrowed $1 million from his dad when he was a young man to buy a building or what have you. For a lot of people, sounds like, well, he showed it. He proved himself to his dad. He came to his dad with a deal. The deal was good, so his dad loaned him $1 million because he would have loaned that $1 million and been an investor in any property that somebody came forward with that was that good. That was the storyline that they kind of pushed around it on anybody pushing back. Well, it turns out Donald Trump was making $200,000 a year from his dad's company, the equivalent in modern dollars. I think it was somewhere in the order of 105, 120K. When he was 3 years old. He was an employee of Fred Trump's company at 3 years old. Now, either...
That seems legit.
He was the most amazingly astute real estate investor at 3 years old, or his dad was using his children as a tax dodge from the minute they were born, essentially. Yep. And it ultimately turns out that Donald Trump received at least $413 million worth of support from his father and the inheritance that he borrowed against of his own siblings. $413 million. Understand, by the way, that most of the properties, the $1 billion properties that he claims as his own or that have his name on them, he is simply a branding element associated with those buildings. He has minor investments in them that pay him a branding fee. And on top of that, once that money ran out, where did he turn to get new money?
You mean after he borrowed it from his siblings and didn't give it back?
He went from daddy to Vladdy. That's right. He never stopped borrowing. There has never been a day, not one single day ever, where the Trump organization has floated on its own economic merit. There has never been one profitable day where the profit turned by the Trump organization was enough to pay its own bills. Not one day ever. Welcome to Maganomics. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. We'll take a couple more callers when we get back right after this. And thank you, chat room, for troll digging and talking. It's a good time. That's right, Akth. And by the way, great to see you, Akth. It was so nice to see you and Can't Stop Lying at the shows. They Act came to the early show, and Can't Stop Lying came to the second show. Just really cool to see you guys come down. It was great to meet you finally. And Natalie, thank you so much. Yay, Natalie's coming down. That's awesome. Yeah, I was just about to ask. That's so great. Thank you, Natalie. And yeah. One of my videos on my channel explaining what Muhammad was foretold in the Bible. You might find it interesting, even though quite lengthy. It also explains where Islam went wrong. I mean, basically, what's currently happening between Judaism, Islam, and Christianity is a battle amongst who gets the inheritance to Daddy's kingdom. In many ways, Trump is the perfect evangelical example of that ideal, because it's really about who's Daddy's favorite child. The Messiah who came, the Messiah who hasn't come yet, or the guy who speaks on behalf of the Messiah until the Messiah shows up. And that's pretty much the argument that they're murdering each other about. And yeah, I can't donate to Super Chat, and all my money goes to Dem Candidates right now. I appreciate that, Seattle Susie Q. I completely, that makes total sense. You will eventually, Zelda. I'll come somewhere near you. So, Trump's Panama president, pals in jail. Yeah. Well, that'll increasingly happen too, because to quote Judge Kavanaugh, what goes around comes around. Even when you're at Tobin's house, living ways with the guys. Having some skis. Drinking beers at Tobin's house.
Ten seconds.
Thank you. Yeah, Billy, that's right. It is a family feud. They all believe in the exact same God. They also, at Orthodoxy, have a problem. We've talked about this before, but the troll might have missed it.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. It's now time for the happy ending.
Welcome back. We're going to take some calls right now. Who do we have on the line there, Johnny? I know we got a couple.
We've got Elaine. Line 2.
Elaine. No. Right on. Hi. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm calling about
yes, you are.
Voter suppression. And every time.
How about Elaine?
Lost? Is she
back.
there?
I don't know.
There you are. Oh, wait, I hear her now. Elaine, did we lose you? What? Why did we lose?
It's, when women call, there's they are. I thought women didn't want to call in. The women don't like to do the work of doing a phone call.
Hello? No, there you are.
Hello.
Thank you.
Hi.
Yes,
you're back.
Here?
Yes, we hear you now. You're good. Thank you. We lost you for a second, but welcome back, Elaine. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi.
Voter suppression.
Yes. When I order things on the phone, I do this often because I'm handicapped. I'm also a senior citizen. And I always say, please vote. You don't have to tell me who you're going to vote for, but please vote. Well, last night I ordered something on the phone, and my call, and I also, when my call is, transferred to somebody out of state, I always ask, what state are you in? And the person said, I'm in South Texas, near San Antonio.
Okay.
Well, I have a friend that lives there in the same area, and she knew the small town that he lived in very well. And she said, well, I went to the voting place the first day of, open voting. You can vote right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, early voting. And I wanted to vote. And I could tell by her accent that she probably was black. And also, I know that area is very Trump.
No.
From my friend that lives in the same area.
Right.
And she said, I was told I couldn't vote, that I would have to vote at a polling place on Election Day. And, of course, you know what that means.
Yeah.
And I said to her, 50 miles away, and the line is going to be 3 blocks long.
That's right. Well, and
so,
did they give her a reason? Did they say why?
No, just you can't vote. You can't vote now.
No. Yeah.
No reason. You have to. And, of course, you know, if she was going to vote Democratic, which probably she was.
Mm-hmm. Well, they certainly felt like she was. The irony is, if she wasn't, they'd have lost a vote, but they don't really care.
Right.
They, you know.
But she said she sounded so discouraged.
Yeah.
Because she said, you know, like, she didn't say it, but I knew that she wasn't going to try to vote because she knew what was going on.
Right.
But, of course, she couldn't say that.
So you drive 50 miles to do a provisional ballot and have it not counted until it's too late anyways. Right. I mean, that, yes, and that is exactly why, and I appreciate the call, and I thank you for calling in, by the way, and, you know, it's meaningful that you're engaged. You know, it is not statistically improbable that you yourself at your age and in your situation, as a woman, as a disabled person, and as a senior citizen, are a voter. You are what would be considered a consistent voter, someone that's reliable as a voter. And I would say to all the people, and thank you, Elaine, to all the people who are like, oh, I don't know, I'll try to get down. I hope I get a chance to. You know, it's rough, it's tough, it's hard, whatever. Like, if you see us, if you can walk, and you see a single person in line on the news anywhere at a polling place in a wheelchair, I hope it gives you chest pains watching it, that you aren't down there voting, because it's shameful. You know, the power and the importance of representative democracy cannot be overvalued. It cannot be. You know, it's like Jim Rohn used to say, you know, people are coming to America. They want to be here. That's what Neil Diamond says, but it's true. People aren't getting in boats to go to Vietnam. They're not climbing walls and going through trenches to get to Mexico. No, they're coming here. And the reason they come here is because you have a chance to make a better life for yourself and choose who represents you. And to not make use of that privilege on this earth is disgusting. Nothing short. Nothing short of that. And Say What in the chat says, did you see the ad about trying to get young people to vote? I did see it. Again, young people, if you're listening, I'm not impressed. You know, no one's going to take young people as a voting bloc seriously for a long time until we motivate young voters through many different aspects, either by getting them to, you know, to vote through a selective service style voter registration where at 18 you are, you know, I bet we could get something. We could never do compulsive voting in this country, but I bet we could do compulsive voting versus community service. If you can force a selective service on people, you could say, guess what? From when you're 18 to 24, you got to vote or you got to do an hour of community service someplace. To get people to get in the habit of it. If your parents don't do it. I take my son with me when I go to vote. He's 7 years old. I want him to see the importance of this process.
That means he gets to vote twice, right?
That's right. He stands on my shoulders. We wear a raincoat like Mini-Me and you know and Austin Powers in Goldmember, like staggering through the place or whatever. And it's only because I'm on his shoulders that makes it difficult.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. I think we got time to take one caller if they get a couple minutes.
Call.
Yeah, let's grab him. Because we got a couple minutes. We can get him. Who is it?
It's Ron.
Hey, Ron, welcome.
How you doing? Thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely. Go ahead. It's all you.
Yeah, I was sad about 5 years ago. You said a couple of weeks ago about voting. If you think we're voting for the lesser of two evils, you still vote because we're voting for the lesser of two evils.
Rob, get your mouth closer to the phone because you sound like you're tin canning us right now. Yeah.
How's this?
That's better. Yeah. Slightly.
So, yeah, well, I was saying, we're voting for the lesser of two evils. You still vote for the lesser of two evils.
Well,
and two, the choice last time was not between Hitler and Mussolini is between Hitler and Roosevelt.
Yes.
So there's a way to go with them.
Yeah, that and people were allowed themselves to be talked into the idea that Hillary Clinton to Donald Trump was the lesser of two evils, and there is not a single crisis put forward, including the removal of the rules of engagement in fighting Islamic extremists or ISIS in war zones and in places like Syria. There's not a single area of crisis we've experienced in the last year and a half plus that would have happened had Hillary been in office. Not one. None of them. Literally, we would have not had the largest military.
She wouldn't have separated the kids.
She wouldn't have separated the kid. We wouldn't have had the largest military escalation in our history, in the country's history. We wouldn't have had 80% more civilians killed in military and drone strikes compared to the entire 8 years of the Obama administration. 80% more people.
At her at the UN?
80% more human beings have died in the last year and a half because of military actions, because of the removal of the Obama rules of engagement, than were killed in the entirety of the 8 years that Obama was in office. That would not have happened had Hillary been in office. I don't care who you are. That's a big lie you have to tell yourself to get that off your conscience. 80% more dead people. The same number plus 80% more. Don't get me started. Well, get me started. We'll talk about it in the after show. I appreciate the call. We're all going to start a fund to get him a better phone. Obviously, he had some good points, but
I don't understand a word he was saying. It was very...
Oh, it's sad that I want Chuck Grassley to stay in office just in a minor position just so I can keep doing that character. That's fantastic.
You know what? They will never... I want you to always be Chuck Grassley and Donald Trump, no matter
the two of them.
Die.
Even if you can just make Lady B laugh in the middle of all this, and my life will be worth it. Thank you so much, Johnny Million. We'll see you next week. Rocky Mountain Mike's going to join us in a couple of weeks. That's a little surprise. That'll be really awesome. We're going to make that happen, and I'll see you guys next week. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT820.com.
Where you always save more money.
That's right. When you save it, spend it on weapons. And men know what they're doing.
Yeah, elaborator, you're right. That was awesome that he called in. Charlie Brown's teacher actually called into us. How do you think we should vote this time around? Oh, well, all right. You think that's a good idea?
I understand. I can translate for you. But it's ridiculous. These people are morons. Shame on you. Damn it.
Holy smoke. I have banana phone styling second my name. We need to spend it on Pepto-Bismol and underpants. That's right.
We need that extra money. Some of us, they asked me if I needed adult diapers. I said, it depends.
More moonshine, right. What was your problem with me drinking out of a mason jar? Was that, I saw some of that go by, pass by there or whatever. And thank you, Julie Carroll.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, 92.5 WCPT FM DeKalb, and online WCPT820.com.
There we go. Sorry about that. Pretty loud. So thank you. Everybody was afraid to hear calling. Let's see. Love her call, but was afraid to start hearing about onions on belts. My own mom would have restrained herself. Right. Elaine is very cool. I could tell from her accent, that she was probably black. Well, it's interesting how Grassley is close to Bill Cosby.
But it's really the side of the mouth that if you do it out of your teeth, that's where it is.
Yeah, right? See? I put it in there subtly. And P.S. I find it ironic that that our troll today, considering my shirt. Hold on. It's like, do you believe it's okay how Islamists treat gay people? I'm like, all right, simmer down. That's right. I'm back at to do some Windy City Times work. Well, we appreciate the work that you're doing. Hey, Rocky. Okay, and yeah, and welcome to the post show. Thank you, Amos. Kavanaugh gets popped for DUI. Oh, that would be an interesting. Wow, can you know? I wouldn't rule that out as a possibility. Although from now on, he's going to be driven nearly everywhere because he's a Supreme Court justice. So their lives are in danger all the time. You know, we'll get to see your face with Hal soon. Well, he's going to be in studio in Chicago, I think. So, yeah. That's right, Rocky Mountain Mike. I had Johnny, Johnny passed along your, that's right, I am a Knights Templar. Johnny got your message or whatever and passed it along to me, and I was like, yeah, I didn't know if he'd responded to you yet. But so, yeah, we want to have you in if it works out. So hopefully that'll work out all cool. Never see the way. We'll never see the way he treats the women on the court. He's not going to treat the women on the court badly. He won't dare. His own, female clerks might be another story. But when it comes to sexual harassment claims, Republicans and Republican women tend to circle the wagons more. So when I go back to China, in November. Yeah, absolutely, RMM. We're glad you're going to come on. So there you go. That's right. Well, the restraining order is between you and I, Rocky Mountain. I don't care what happens to Johnny, so you'll be all right. And did our troll just bail out? Is that what happened? It was hard to keep track of who qualifies as a troll and what they were thinking. Sometimes I think we do harm by the relentless horror stories of voting. Especially a new voter who hears these must think it's an onerous and potentially humiliating process. You may be right there because I have believed for a long time. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. I'm going to create a highlight real quick. In terms of voting rights, and I wanted to talk about this a little bit. We have the recurring refrain from a lot of people is either I'm in a blue state or I'm in a red state, and it's already said, and my vote doesn't really affect anything. Never mind the fact that it absolutely does affect the lower rung state houses, those kind of roles, because people are less hardline about those things usually, and so there's a little more room to move on those votes. But also, again, you create a mandate or you undermine the mandate of the other side by stacking your vote against theirs. So they recognize that even if instead of winning by 5% or 8% or 12%, they won by 3%. It is different for them, and they make different calculations the next time they want to get elected based on what they're going to do in office. If there's a clear majority that they have, they don't really have to care what the rest of their constituents think. So it's very important to get out in what you would consider a safe district, even if it's safe for the opposite vote that you would have. But I really genuinely believe that in a country where not everybody is afforded the same right to vote, that pissing away your vote is spitting in their faces. The other thing, too, is that every person who's ever died in the military sacrificed their lives, their limbs, their brains, their ability to walk again, move again, feed themselves again. All those people, everyone buried at Arlington, all those grave sites that everybody pretends to care about, on Memorial Day and Veterans Day, all those, you are dishonoring those people by not voting, doing that baseline level thing, doing the act of voting and actually being a participant in this democracy, because that's more than anything what they fought and died for, your ability to do that. And so to let it go is disgusting. And this applies, I don't care what your reasoning is, because there's, believe me, that for every progressive who decries corporate Democrats and doesn't vote because they believe they believe as much in the Rothschilds globalist mythology as the Alex Jones libertarian angle of the right wing does. That, if I vote, they'll facial recognition will let them know that I'm there, and then they'll shut my militia down. That crowd. That you have a responsibility, I believe, in this country to vote. And if you let that vote slip, you are saying to everybody who fought for that right to vote, and everyone who is fighting that day, that their struggle means nothing to you. And that's immoral, and it's disgusting, and you should be ashamed of yourself. And I have no problem saying that. Now, I feel the same way on a personal level about what I would consider protest votes. Except in the in the most egregious of circumstances, where it's like a dead guy, it's mayor, and your choice is between a right-wing militia member, the Democrat who died 6 weeks before the election, and you decide to write in a horse because they took the Dem's name off because he's dead. That kind of stuff. Everywhere else, though, unless you are assured that your person will win, you must vote for the better person who will get in office and get closer to your goals at all times. That the circumstance we are in is climbing a ladder. There is no leapfrogging. You do not take advantage of I can let this one slide. Not ever. Until the margin of people who believe what you believe, that are in office, that are that represent what you believe, is so high that you can believe you can take it an order of magnitude further by voting. That's my personal belief. I believe protest votes are awful and a waste of time and damaging, and partly responsible for what the situation we're in right now with Donald Trump and child separations and the national debt doubling in the next year, and them using that as an excuse to come after Social Security, Medicare, stopping Medicaid expansion, attempting to kill the ACA, undoing things like the Iran deal, where you're one step closer to limiting how many countries have nukes in the world. This footsie with North Korea, all that stuff is enabled largely not because of the other side. They were always going to vote the way they were going to go, but by the people who were on the margins and gave up their right to vote or pissed it away. And I think that's immoral. And there is no convincing me otherwise. And you can either disagree with me and get all angry, or you can take that and know inside that you're guilty, or you can take that guilt and try to right it by making restitution and actually trying to do some good. And if you think it's about moving the Democratic Party to the left to where you go, then by all means work on a campaign and get elected. I'm 100% for it. I feel like there's so much value in more voices. Ocasio-Cortez, I think, is a great example of that very thing, of money where your mouth is, caring about the electorate. So anyways, that's my little diatribe on that. But what it rolls down is that there's no option to voting because of what it says about you morally and what it says about your country materially. You can never complain that we're a country of yuck of any sort if you have not voted at any point, or allowed your vote to be co-opted, or pissed it away in any format, or not voted while watching other people be denied the right to vote. At the very least, you're saying, look at those people standing in line for 3 hours, some of them getting handed provisional ballots. Some of them will never get the chance to actually vote. So I'm going to go vote just to make sure that our shared values get a voice today, because I know mine will count. And voting, by the way, is easy for the majority of people in the country. For the majority of people in this country, you have the ability to vote early, to vote at the Secretary of State's office or at any of the big at the mayor's office. There's different offices. Like in LA, it's a bit of a drive, but you can do it in person beforehand. You can vote absentee. You can fill it out, put it back in the envelope that's free, send it right back. It is easy, especially compared to like ink penning your finger and sticking it on a purple tab to show that you voted, voting in someplace like Iraq and then getting killed because you voted. Like the fact that you would, we have such an app mentality about how easy stuff should be. We're like petulant people in a restaurant complaining about the service when we don't realize the volume of food we are consuming compared to the rest of the world and taking all of that for granted. Americans tend to vote like they eat in a restaurant. They have, most of the time a mild disregard for the amount of service that they are provided with, the volume of food they are provided with, at the price that they are able to get it, compared to the rest of the world, and the expenditure of effort and time and, in danger to themselves, just to get the chance to vote. And we're like, well, my state's going to go that way anyways, so why bother? Or, I don't really like who I'm presented with, or I'm not inspired. That whole crowd. Forget it. I don't buy it. You're never going to convince me otherwise. This is a deeply held ethic that is meaningful to me as a person, and it is more of a meaningful ethic to me than your I don't feel like it is to you. My belief in the power of effort will always beat your that feeling of laziness or disdain for the process. Because I view it as a calling and a worthwhile thing, and I do not believe in letting people die for nothing just because I'm too lazy. And I'm talking to you millennials, because statistically you're not going to vote. And again, I'm not even talking to you if you're a Democrat or you're going to vote Democrat or whatever. But you piss away your vote and ignore it or don't inform yourself and vote meaningfully. The act of doing that, you will regret 6 years down the line when you're in your midterm after the following election. Like, I should have voted my beliefs. And so anyway, so that's enough of that rant. I just think it's important. Vote.org is the site I think you guys should go to. Make sure you're registered. Get your absentee through them. It's a great way to handle all of it. They're terrific. So use that. There you go. That's my little diatribe for the time being. Upload that. Public. Upload. There you go. And then turn that off and go back to the normal show. We should be all right. All right. That's my rant. I just made a little clip for the show as a separate thing. No mail-in ballots get lost. There are sometimes better shepherds of them when they're received than other sites. The problem with mail-in ballots would seem to be lost mail. It's less of a concern, though. The mail is a pretty rock-solid thing. I want a paper ballot I can figure out at home. That's exactly what an absentee ballot is. I'm an introvert, but this weekend my wife and I are going to force ourselves to canvass and knock on doors for Katie Porter for Congress. That's great. You're voting early? How? Yes, I am. I'm voting early. I get my it gets mailed to my house. I have a P.O. box along with my house address. So I'm registered at my house, but I have a P.O. box so that I make sure I get all my mail and doesn't get sent in, nobody can raid my mailbox or steal packages, that kind of stuff if I'm out and about. And so it should arrive like in the next couple of days, if not the next week. So, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it out and then take it down to this state office that's it's like north of Fullerton in LA, where you can go in and just turn in your ballot. You can vote that day. I'm going to do that there. So just so I know, like, so I don't even have to worry about it. And it's, you know, it makes an afternoon of it. It makes it, you know, because it's such a drive in LA, but it's worth it. You know what I mean? It's done. Yes, I'm drinking iced cold brew, actually. That's what I'm doing. Half the folks in Texas who thought they'd registered online have been told their registration is not legal. That's right. Yeah, good old Fullerton, right, Carl? My mother dragged my butt to vote as soon as I was old enough. She asked people all the time if they vote. Like some moms ask people to go to church. That's great. You Gen Xers were the millennials of the 90s. Well, that's exactly right. That's the problem with the youth vote. It's never the same vote twice, you know, because by the time they regret not voting, they're not young voters anymore. They're in their 20s. And they're going, damn it, I should have voted when I was 18, or I should have voted when I was 19 or 20, whenever their first chance was. My own cold brew, Hal, love this stuff. Yeah, I make it too. I have a little thing. This one isn't. This was from a bottle because Summer picked some up at the store. So you know, when I'm running around trying to get the tech to work on the show, sometimes I rush it. But I have one of those overnight cold brew makers. It's great. I use it to make tea too, like cold steeping tea. Yeah. Also, when cold calling, enjoy the awful calls when you get together after decompress. You can use them as a great anecdote. That's true. Also, Carl, be ready for some pleasant surprises. Because when I was canvassing for Obama in some of the more rednecky districts outside of Cincinnati, Ohio, which a district he ultimately ended up winning in these areas, surprising everyone, the people that I talked to, and you're like, you go up to the door, screen door's open, screen door's closed, regular door's open. They're all sitting around, you know, sucking beers and wearing sort of Confederate hats, that type of crowd. And I'm not gonna go, hey, I'm canvassing and making sure you're gonna vote in the election. I'm a supporter of Barack Obama's, and I hope we can count on your vote and da 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 da. And some of the people I just naturally thought would go, oh, we ain't voting for that one, that kind of stuff. Went, yeah, he seems like a good man. I think I'll do that. And you're like, it was an eye-opener, and you talk about some of the white working class voters that often get, when they get brought up, get kind of angrily dismissed by liberals who think that the Democrats are using them as a way to, as some sort of, soft racism or something like that, that they would go, you can't forget the white working class people. Because Bernie Sanders went after them. He just didn't call them white. He just assumed by numbers they are, volume-wise. That's why they've started putting non-Hispanic white, because a lot of Hispanics are actually filling out census and saying that they're white along with that, because they consider themselves to be, that kind of stuff. But the people I was meeting, these were people who considered Obama a decent human being and voted for him. And a lot of those same people, more than likely, voted for Trump the next time around, and were being told that because of their skin color, they were clearly racist, and they were like, hey, man, I voted for Obama. I actually like that guy, but I'm not going to vote for these people telling me I'm something I'm not, right? That's the pushback. And I can't say they were wrong to feel that way, because I met them face to face. And I don't think they looked at Trump and they heard the words coming out of his mouth differently than other people did. When he said that, and some of them are good people, I assume, he was like, that was all they needed to go, oh, he's not saying all Mexicans. He's saying the drug cartels and the people who are stealing jobs, those are the bad people. They're coming across the border, selling drugs to kids and stealing jobs from, Americans and not paying taxes. That is something we got to deal with. And by the way, every elected representative believes in some version of that in immigration, because it's a country. We have a country. You don't have a country. You don't have borders. You don't have a country. Everybody believes that to some degree. He's saying it like he invented it. A lot of people don't know even Lincoln was a Republican. That kind of nonsense. And Jennifer was saying, I canvassed for Obama near Columbus, Ohio in 2008. Got a lot of offers of everything from tea to beer. Yeah, there's, it's surprising. I believe that there's a section of voters that are whatever you give them the room to be. And you can say that they're untrustworthy or unreliable voters as far as the people who call themselves independents in this process. But the truth is, I really do feel like they have, there's a chunk of them that are very considerate about stuff, and if they are not pushed intellectually, they will be pulled emotionally. And so if you go, this is the intellectual push is not working on them this time around, then the emotional pull might work. But if you dismiss them out of hand and don't try to do either because they don't deserve to be heard, or you think that they're at base wrong just because of who they are, where they live, what their economic status is, and what their skin color is, you're as bad as the other side. That's just the truth. Lincoln wasn't his kind of Republican. Oh, absolutely. There's a reason why those guys started trying to distance themselves. Like, they're a little pissed that Lincoln was a Republican. He's not indicative of them. Seen 2 of Tom Arnold's show, kind of captivating. He's an interesting guy. Oh, my God. Talk about another guy who's always stuffed up. Like Grassley. Like, we all need to get together and create a fund so that Grassley and Tom Arnold can both get their nasal passages, buy them neti pots. And yes, Tom is a friggin' crazy person. I just saw teenage Wonder Woman at the Washington Steps protesting get Trump on that magic lasso. Yeah, Tom's show is about trying to get the Apprentice tapes released, the search for those tapes, including the PP tape, though. He's looking for that as well. The graphics on that show are a little shocking. And by the way, Penn Jillette has come out and said, I've heard him say those things in person. I know a tape was rolling. They have to exist. Why wasn't Jackie on the show? I don't know. We tried to arrange it. I wasn't able to do it. I apologize. We will get her on the show because I think it was all this stuff with the vote happening. And do we have a vote yet? Have you guys looked? Have we seen that there's a vote? Has it happened yet? We have to check the news. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. Have they made it? Can you guys? I don't have a TV up in here. Anyway, so yeah. Protesters are gathering. Let's see. We'll put this up. Protesters gather outside of Supreme Court ahead of Kavanaugh vote. I'm so inspired by these protesters, and at the same time frustrated that the protesting has to exist at all. I have a personal feeling of guilt, like, could I have done more, so that women should not have to be standing out in front of the Supreme Court right now arguing that a dude with a history of this kind of derogatory behavior towards women, and broy alcohol consumption, who would lie under oath to cover it when he doesn't have to. That's another story for another time. He could have told a true story, and asked, and literally made it on the court. I really do think that. So the vote is at 3:30. Okay, all right. But the fact, every time one of these protests happens, from the Women's March to any of these, all of the pride I feel about seeing people, take to the streets and show their strength in numbers and the power of their, desire to see change, that's all well and good. But the fact of the matter is, they shouldn't have to. And, yeah, Charles, let's see. This is the best breakdown of the week's bad news. I try, Michael. I really do. And, Charles, we are devolving, and it's so scary. I don't think we are, Charles. I think we're exposing our point in the evolutionary arc. We're not going backwards. We're showing what was there. And again, that's why it's called civilization. It's an ongoing process. It never ends. It takes constant gardening to maintain democracy and civilization. Yeah, that was Sweet Tea was on Charmageddon. Yes, it was. I still believe in a blue wave and in the year of the woman. I do too, but that belief isn't going to make it actually happen. Effort will, and I'm not going to take 1 second for granted that in the process of this, like this vote's going to go through. He's going to get in, and that was a done deal from the second Trump was elected. Kennedy didn't have to step down. He wasn't even close to the kind of retirement age that some of these people have. He chose to so they could get this guy on longer. They are leapfrogging. That's the status. And so every time I see a protest from our side, my good feelings about it are completely eclipsed by the fact that, God damn it, they shouldn't have to be out there. You shouldn't have to be making these signs. The vote should have handled it because the majority of the American people feel this way. The majority of the American people, he's the least popular SCOTUS nominee in history. This president is the least popular in history. The people of America, by vast numbers, 70-30, almost across the board on all of these issues, feel the opposite of what's going on. And so if that voice, if that normalcy had played out in the voting booth, none of this would have happened. How are you going to try to stay on air till the vote? If so, I'm with you. Well, thanks, Brad. I don't know that I will be able to today. I'll watch it. I might pop back on. Because we have to leave at noon. Yeah. So no, I won't be able to, but I appreciate that. I'll be tweeting about it later on, though. I have no doubt. The fix was in when the FBI was constrained to writing a report the size of a preschooler's learn-to-read book. No question. I mean, this was a farce from day one. They were giving Flake and Collins cover by allowing this to happen. I think Flake genuinely asked for this, but he genuinely didn't want it to go any further. He figured if somebody else will handle it. It was not an act of total cowardice. I think he was genuine with Coons, but I also think he didn't quite care past that certain point. He was never going to be the brave voice. And the fact that we have to count on or worry about Collins or Flake or how they vote is not on them. It's on us, and it always will be. By the voice of the American people, 70-30, most the seats in the Senate, in the House, on the Supreme Court, and certainly in the White House would favor the Democrats across the board as far as the attitude of the American people on almost every issue. But the only reason they don't is because of non-voters and lazy voters, people who don't take their voting seriously. As drastically seriously as it is. That's it. How will Mueller announce like a week before the election? There's no way he'll announce a week before the election. Although it is clear that he is continuing to trickle out information. That whole BS that Giuliani was floating about, this is the end of it, starting September 1st, or him letting go a couple of his team, that's somehow them curtailing it. They've got everything they need from those people. They're going to bring other people back on to fill those positions because those people are only going to be temporary anyways. Yeah, definitely not. Excuse me, Black Knight of Doug. Would you care to rephrase that? Arrest Ford? Why? Black Knight of... Yeah, that's moronic. But good luck with that. That's fine. It's a good position to be in a day and age where women are finally having their voice, that your primary point is to arrest an accuser. Yeah. Henry Ford. My bad. That's adorable. Donald Trump has been running for the Nobel Prize too. What a joke. Well, yeah. Flake is a flake. Again, I don't care. I don't know how I can stress this strongly enough. But the fact that we are hoping for or relying on the vote of Lisa Murkowski or Susan Collins or Jeff Flake is not on them, it's on us. It's an absurdity that in any way we would get, that we even allow ourselves the moral room to get mad at them. I don't buy it. The amount of protests that are going on are nothing to be proud of. It's sad that they even have to happen in the first place. Women should not be in this position. They shouldn't have been in the position to be attacked in the first place. They should be in a position to be heard. In criminal situations, everybody gets due process. If somebody is found not guilty later on, the reinstatement and through all that stuff, just like if they were accused of stealing from the company, they would go through something. If they were accused of murder, they would go through something. And then you're accused of a heinous crime and you're found innocent, you're not guilty later on, you get your life back. That's how it should be. But in the interim, this idea somehow that, we can count on that we're waiting with bated breath to find out how Susan Collins is going to vote. It's moronic. I agree. That's why I'm wearing my lucky Chicago Bears t-shirt, because science. We did the unthinkable in 1994 when we did not vote to hold Congress for Bill Clinton. Yeah, exactly. You gave it away. Every time you give it away, it's on us. The point in Arizona is to replace Flake with Kristen Sinema. Absolutely. That deserves a Herculean effort. Let's see. I'm rolling back to look through some of your stuff. How can we meet Murphy? Oh, yeah. I'd have to run out and actually, if I crack the door, he'll probably run inside or whatever. Yeah. Before the show ends, I'll go grab Murphy for you guys so you can see him. He's adorable. Yeah. And so when you look at the stories like this, White House limited FBI's Kavanaugh review from the start. Of course they did. I mean, there was no Alex Trebek is a GOP shill. Oh my God, Carrie, give it a rest. Alex Trebek is a game show host. He's not a GOP shill. He is a man with his own political beliefs, and he's allowed to have them. But like there's so many, Helen with Rosen and Beto with Cruz. Yeah. Yeah, Beto has a real shot. Yeah, Don McGahn, told Trump, if they look, they're going to find something. You better limit this. And the president ultimately acquiesced him because he wanted a full counting, because he doesn't believe. I think he's crazy enough that he doesn't even believe his own accusers at this point. I think he knows if you really cornered him and you forced him to remember the events of a night or whatever, he would be shocked by his own memories of it. But I think the story that he has told himself about, about what happened to him, and how it went for him. Like, I think Trump has started to believe his own bullshit at this point. Trump is living in a fantasy land. He doesn't even know the answer unless someone hands him a card. Yeah. I mean, I think he's an autopilot president for a lot of things, and they're counting on that. And, basically, we had that during George W. Bush, where, Cheney was the real president, and George W. Bush actually had, was the colloquial have a beer with him face that they put on it, And now you've got a situation where the entire Republican Party is treating Trump like Cheney treated GWB. Trump has always lived in a fantasy land because he hasn't had to work for anything in his entire life. Yeah, and yet he thinks he struggled and he sacrificed. I've given up so much to this. His wealth has apparently gone down by a quarter over the course of the last 2 years because the Trump brand is ruined worldwide. And by the way, tell me again about how he's a king of branding. Tell me again how that's the case, because I don't believe it. Anybody who tells me he's a master manipulator of the media is someone in the media who's just admitting to me that they're a gullible sap. Because all these people, like, you can just see them coming. Fantasyland of his own creation is being made in real time. Wouldn't he have to believe his own belief? No, Zelda. A lot of people in the government know they are selling something, and specifically maintain a message. They know it's more complicated, but they act like it's simple, because if they don't simplify it, the voter will not vote them in, and the option of having somebody else in, the other person, is so awful that they're like, you know what, I'm gonna have to BS my way into office a little bit, because if I don't get in, that person will get in. If that person gets in, it's game over for everyone. So, yeah, there you go. I mean, that was the argument about, Obama felt like gay marriage should be legal, but Axelrod told him, look, if you say that, you're gonna lose, and then the guy who gets in is gonna guarantee that no one's gonna be able to do this. Nobody's gonna be, the gay marriage will not happen if that person gets in. Period. End of story. So if you want it to happen, you can't say you're 100% before it. And that's not on him either. That's on the American people. Because and everybody said, I dealt with this being on Queer as Folk. Like, everybody said that, America's attitude towards gay marriage has changed. And I disagree. I think America, as I know it, is a lot more liberal and open-minded and open-hearted. And there's seeds of that in nearly everyone throughout. They just started phrasing the question in a way that wasn't, that softened to be more like a real, less of a, will gay marriage, letting gay people get married destroy the, raising the question, like in a poll, when you're polling people about how they feel about gay marriage by writing, what do you feel about the damage done to the institution of marriage if gay people are allowed to da-da-da-da? And then a lot of people are like, well, the assumption in that question, being a push poll in the way it's written, is that it will do some kind of damage, even though there's no evidence that it would. The idea is that, well, if gay people get married, so you're saying there is damage? Well, I would feel very bad about that, and then you go, well, okay, now America's feeling about gay marriage is 40-60, right? And then you start asking people, like, shouldn't gay people have the right to get married just like anyone else, so they can see their loved ones in the hospital like any other married couple, and have the same tax benefits as a couple if they're going to stay together and commit to being together like any straight couple? Shouldn't they have that right? Suddenly it's 60-40 and 70-30, and it's just the wording of the question. The reality is people don't grow that fast. The American populace does not mature that quickly, and a big swath of the American populace never matured, or they make a new group of morons every generation, and it's about 20 to 30%. And stacked with the old versions of that, that's the voting block. That's the one that, the most Democrats are fighting, and the hardcore, religious right, and the hyper red Republicans, and that the Republicans in their own party, that's the extremists they fight to try and have a normal conservative party. The George Wills and those people are always complaining about that, they make a new batch, right? So, thumbs up on the stream, still 200 here. Yeah, that's right. We've got 200 people in the chat room. That's awesome. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. I know I always forget to say that. It's kind of hilarious how, let's do this or whatever. Like, I'm going to do a welcome to the show thing. Kind of thing. Hi there. So maybe you don't know, but every Saturday I do a radio show, live call-in, old-fashioned terrestrial radio on WCPT radio in Chicago, one of the last progressive stations owned in the country by private interests, so we weren't bought out by some big corporation and shelved for the Patriot in an area that already has nothing but right-wing AM radio anyways. We take calls, we do all that kind of stuff, and we have this show streaming on YouTube every single week at the same time. And afterwards, we do a show like this, which is the post show, where we can exchange ideas, talk, plan, plot, deal with trolls, all that fun stuff. And so I appreciate you checking out the show. It's obviously longer. It's a 2-hour show plus. And I know that's against the YouTube rules most of the time, but if you can hang in there with us, I guarantee you that the conversation is pretty decent and a lot more open than you might expect, considering what the rest of YouTube looks like. So it's the hashtag is HSRPM. If you ever want to contact me on Twitter, it's @HalSparks. Use that hashtag when we're talking about stuff on the show. I'll see that as well. The chat room gets rolled into it as well. And each week, we deal with the news of the week and kind of where we think it's going. And so I appreciate you guys showing up. You can always donate to the show either through patreon.com/HalSparks or on here through Super Chat, which is fantastic when you guys do that. I greatly appreciate it. So check us out. There you go. I made a little commercial for the show. What do you know? So there you go. And we'll shut this and go back to the regular. Yeah, so where are we? Go back to the chat room. So, what size guitar strap do I wear lengthwise? I haven't measured it in a bit. I sling pretty low. I tell you what, I'll tweet it out later on, Robin, because I'd have to get out a measuring tape and do it, because I have this one that's just a straight leather strap. It's just one length, and it's my preferred length, but it's way in the other room, and I'd have to measure it. Thank you so much. Yeah, I just Can't Stop Lying is one of the best, and Carl and Julie are really great at getting me to do all the road work of YouTube and try to get people more engaged in the show and sign up and all that kind of stuff, and it's tough. Pretty good on the fly producing, HalSparks. Well, thank you, Charles. I'm getting a little better at it. It helps immensely that when my brain power is freed up from other technical difficulties. Most of the time, it's like I've always said in life, you're always expending energy. The question is, are you expending that energy climbing up a mountain or getting out of a hole? And if you're spending it getting out of a hole, you don't have a lot left over for getting up the mountain. And the mountain is really what we're trying to climb here. So hopefully technologically we get out of that hole. And sometimes when we have a show today that was relatively technologically smooth, I will say, and partly because my tie line, the thing I normally use, died last night, a pretty horrible death. That buzzing problem I had last week that was driving me insane during the show didn't go away, and so it never recovered. So I've got to get a new power supply or something. Anyway, so I was working on that at 1 o'clock in the morning last night after doing 2 shows, so I could be up at 8. Online at 8 o'clock with Chicago trying to get stuff fixed. So I went back to work using the app that we use. I was doing a lot of technical tap dance in the last 12 hours trying to make sure the show was smooth. But once it was nailed down, it worked. So yeah, the pixelization was the first part of that. And I was like, oh, okay, I got to change that whole thing. So nice lucky cat in the background. Yeah, that's a bank. But yeah, I like our happy cat. That's called a maneka-neko in Japanese, which is one of my favorite words to say. How many guitars do I have? Upwards of 50, something like that. I believe every guitar has songs in it, like a spirit. That's one of my own personal weirdness. So you pick it up, just the feel of the neck and how it plays. You'll write differently on every guitar you put in your hands. That white ESP, the EC 500, which is kind of their low-rung starter guitar in a lot of ways. The 256, really, the starter. It's kind of the middle-class guitar. I'm a middle-class player, so that guitar is perfect. It is the greatest guitar I've ever owned, and I just love it. So, and I practice on it more. It makes me want to play guitar more. And everybody, I only wish you find a guitar that you love as much as I do that guitar. There you go. 14 minutes left. Thank you for keeping me honest. Can't Stop Lying. I appreciate it. It's almost 2 o'clock, and yeah, that's right. Sam Blam. I think the Peace Prize went to the right people, definitely. Isn't that hoarding territory? No, not at all. I'm completely... they're not piled on top of each other. I actually play them. And there's different, like, there's guitars I tour with and I will play live and I'm not afraid to take out with me. And then there's other ones that I record with. And then there's novelty ones and all that kind of stuff. Now a happy ending. Yeah, the happy ending would be that. Yeah. So, have I given any of your cards? I call the white ones the Cloud, which is kind of in reference to Prince a little bit. What 2-hour limit? Well, no. It's not that YouTube has a 2-hour limit. It's just that the fact that, like, the show, you know, it gets a little long for people to check out. You know what I mean? And they just won't. I mean, most people won't watch these longer ones, but they might listen to it like a podcast, which is the best way I recommend it. If you're on a long drive or you're listening, if you like podcasts, one of the best ways to do the podcast, just pop this thing on and let it roll. You know, while you're playing, you don't have to. You know, the nice thing about the YouTube app on the iPhone is that it doesn't have to be video. You know, you can listen to it. Just turn off your screen. Who is 3D printing my house? I am. It won't be a secondary company, I don't think. I think we're just going to have to buy the gear and do it ourselves with my dad's old company that he started is an architectural firm, and I'm going to more than likely work with them. Call it chunking in the world of video education. That's right. One more Bill Cosby voice for the road. Yeah. Well, that was Chairman Grassley, but, you know, when you have Bill Cosby, you know, that's much better back in there. But I think the closeness of them has more to do with my own vocal tone, because Cosby's more of a deep, you know, dentists tell you not to pick your teeth with that, you know. But I got so caught in Grassley being up here, you know, he's got the same kind of lazy tongue situation going on there. You know, Grassley sounds like the old Coot and Blazing Saddles. You know, rattle down a ricky dacky razzazazoo. Like, that was some good old fashioned frontier gibberish. Oh, great, you are too. That's awesome. What are you printing in 3D? A house, an actual living place. No, Richard Nixon is a lot lower in there, you know. I blame the Jews. Right, whatever the... There's a lot more jowling going on. Addie missed that voice earlier. That was for Icy. So I don't need a blue patch to see you tonight and say, you don't need a blue patch to see me, but you can bring a guest if you have one for free. Am I still planning to attend Politicon? Yes, I'm actually going to be on a panel at Politicon. The Film Threat panel. I've been asked to be a part of that. Usually when I'm there, I get lassoed into doing other ones too. So, yeah. Form is needed to restore reasonable balance. How were you tonight? I'm in Vegas at the Laugh Factory at the Tropicana. I got 2 shows tonight, 8:30 and 10:30, and 2 shows tomorrow night, 8:30 and 10:30. As a matter of fact, Addie, it's interesting that you brought that up, coming to Toronto, because I just booked some shows next year, April, actually. The longest shows out I've booked in a long time in Nova Scotia. I'm doing the, and this doesn't help you, but I'll get to the point in a second, is in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I'm doing 3 shows in a row, different venues. And we are right now booking around that other Canadian shows, because once I'm in the country to do the shows, it's a lot easier than coming back into the country as far as visa stuff. If I just plan a show in Quebec and a show in Toronto and a show in Vancouver, that kind of thing. So I'm really working to make those happen. Will any of those panels be online or streaming live? I'm pretty sure all of them will, Brad. I don't know for a fact, but I wouldn't. Do I know if John Fugelsang is hosting a panel? No, I do not. I don't know if he's doing that. Yeah, I'll ask, I suppose. What is the blue patch? Oh, well, we got a newbie tablet. You got to be a regular with us, and you got to be in there to be in the blue patch club. It's the cult. That's all I'm gonna say. It's just the cult we have here. You got to join the cult. Once you've joined the cult, then you get there's benefits to being in the cult. They are it's basically a patch that if you wear it, get you certain benefits at my shows and whatnot. Yeah. I just remembered. I missed Jackie Schechter. No, she wasn't in today. Don't worry. I bet Anna Kasparian will be happy to see you. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. DC, Baltimore needs your face. I agree. I'll be back in Baltimore, DC area soon. It's on my mic. Yeah, well, the red one is. It's a blue version of this. This is the music version, so I put that on here. We also have my friends in the military and police wear one of these sometimes on their uniforms. Because this is the stealth gray version of the patch. Because a color standing out draws attention to them. I don't want them to be harmed while supporting me. So that's the. And then there's a blue version of that's for our Democratic and progressive leaning friends, our blue wave, as it were, our blue shield. You ever come on stage wearing the Zoltan bubble wrap suit? Please do that. No, because I would sweat to death and die on stage the popping noise, you wouldn't be able to hear my jokes over it when I lay down on the ground or something. Give us some liberal comedy in Biloxi. Absolutely, I've been down that way before. Go chat, patch friends. Yes, absolutely. Stealth plus 100. That's right. My wife and I always catch a show in Arlington. We're the two people free enough to laugh. Oh, that's right. Yeah, Billy's in the blue. That's right. It's really cool, by the way. It's a great feeling when you guys who have gotten the patch and wear it with pride or have it with pride show up at the show, and I see it with you because it some of you know the story of the design and when I made it when I was in school and what it means to me and all that kind of stuff. And like I'm gonna redo the show about goals soon because the video on it was so terrible. We're gonna redo it, but I'll go over the origins of the patch design and all that kind of stuff as well. Biloxi, that's right. Yes, I move way too much, even on that tiny stage. Can't stop lying because I'm a soy boy. Maggot, I see. Oh, we got a 12-year-old in the room, guys. You're a soy boy. This soy boy can probably bench press you, son. Up here, the colors reverse. Republicans could be blue and Democrats. I see, yeah. 5-minute alarm. Thank you. Yeah, I've got to be on my way soon. I can make Alaska go away. That's funny. I'm proud of it. Still in my fridge and know it is on my Vix. Oh, that's awesome. You are too. It's great because that video was an acid trip. Yes, it was. And it was just like, I guess the output was just being weird. So, Mueller ain't going away. Yeah. I love like the trolls actually think, what do you bench? You plus 50 pounds. I'm kidding. I can bench press more than 150. Yeah, 225. I can bench 225. There you are. Hey, happy? Is soy boy like boy toy? I don't know. That depends on how Molly 69 leans. I'm guessing with a name like that, he was on Tinder or Grindr and then got lost on the internet and ended up in our chat room. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, obviously, using phrases like soy boy has a problem with eating vegetables, which more than likely means that he's had a stroke at some point or is on his way to one, and therefore, whatever. We can't take too seriously what he says because he's in a bad way mentally. What do I do to get the Laugh Factory, and who do I show the patch to? Oh, you just how do you just go to the ticket booth if you haven't already. Just bring in your friend or whatever. Just if you've already got your ticket, you can just bring the patch, and George at the door will know to let you in with a guest. And then if not, you can show it at the all you need to do really is just get one ticket at the ticket booth when you buy your ticket, and then just bring the patch, and there you go. Soy is good for you if you want to be a male wet nurse, right? Yeah, I think the one thing we've learned from our pitiful MAGA troll is that you want to lessen your soy content quite a bit. I mean, if you're going to get a lot of your protein through vegetation, you're going to want to stay towards those Cretaceous vegetables. Or cruciferous vegetables. I did the same thing again. I was going to make the joke and I didn't do it. Cruciferous vegetables, and because hey, that's what elephants eat, and they're pretty damn big. They manage to make a lot of protein. It's probably some kind of disparaging vegan term. It is exactly that. That's something alt-righters say. It's pretty pitiful. They think it's a sick burn. How many friends will you allow? Because I got some friends who would love to see you. The clubs will only let me have, if you bring a patch, to only have one guest based on that. Everybody else has to buy a ticket, otherwise they start freaking out. But it's the ability to let them have one other guest is way. Elephants also rarely get cancer. This is true. Soylent is not people. Yeah, well, Soylent Green is actually avocado. Did you know that? I didn't know that. Soylent Beige is people. Yeah. Soylent Taupe is people, I think, because it's just a mix of everybody. Healthy foods and vitamins truly help daily. This is true. Water's the big thing. Make sure you're getting enough water. Supposedly all soy and corn are genetically modified. Yeah, I mean, they're both, anything that you're metabolizing into too much sugar is not a good idea. Thank you, Carrie. Look at that. Can't stop lying. You got me. Now I'm being policed. I got 2 minutes left. Well, 1 according to my clock, so I got to round out or whatever. And thank you guys for coming in today. We had a decent, we had 187 people already still in the chat in the post show. That's always a great sign. I will say, yeah, Soylent Peach is delicious, isn't it? What isn't that kittens? There must have been difference. We should just do an ad for Soylent. Always drink 5 cups of water daily as well. What if the water is in coffee? That doesn't work because coffee's a diuretic. It pulls the water out of your body. Sprayed with Roundup. Yeah, very funny show. Thank you, Brad. Yeah, greens, berries, onions, mushrooms, and beans. Yeah, that's a good. Although some people can't process beans too, so there's yeah, we really need you right now. Oh, thank you. I try. We should have a whole dietary thing. And by the way, I'm not gonna freak everybody else out. I don't even think Ginger's here, but the whole situation has been working. All of it's stripping out. Everything I've been trying to do, as far as diet and exercise is working. We're almost a month in. We're putting on, some stackage. It's good. You drink coffee, expect a lot of bathroom trip. Yeah, because you're taking the water out, whatever. But all those fitness goals I said on my birthday that I talked to you guys about are actually coming through. The blue patch. So all you got to do is go to hallsparks.com, go to the contact page, and write me an email there. And make sure you put just give me your address and put blue patch in the body of the text somewhere. I'd like a blue patch. Please send me one of the blue patch and your address, and we'll send you one. That's all. Tablet. But I think, is this your first time with us in here? I don't know. So, your dad body shrinking. This is very true. Julie's going to be so jealous. Yeah, she missed it. Yep. And the lighting in here is not that flattering. It's a little bland, so she won't even be able to see the cuts. It's pretty good. Yeah, I'll do it in another one. I got to go. All right, you guys are wonderful. Take care. Bye, soy boy. You're so weak, Mally. Such a weak attempt. Just pitiful. Go watch some Crowder. Bye. Here, this is my last act of being in the chat room. Bye. That's fun. Oops, here we go. Yeah, there you go. So, anyways, how can I fry some eggs on your app? Yes, you can. This is true. All right, I got to go. You guys are wonderful. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. And don't forget, pick somebody that you're going to give a ride to vote and go with them. Take them with you. Somebody, but make a target this week. That person, I'm giving them a ride to make sure we're going to vote. And if they're already taken care of, find another one. And then talk them into bringing somebody else. Oh, you're already going? For sure? Well, I'll meet you down there. What time? Go to your neighbors. Anybody who's in your district who votes at the same polling place as you, go door to door just in your own area. And go, hey, in case you don't know, you live in the neighborhood, our polling place is right over here. Right around the corner, down the street. It's this place. In case you were wondering, our neighborhood, this is our polling place. And, you know, and you can check it out by going to vote.org and that kind of stuff. And you just tell them that. It's a great way to go. Anyways, you guys are wonderful. I'll see you next time. Bye. Bye. So much fun. Bye.